Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. We're going to be replacing a set of injectors and an EGR clean on this 150 Prado. Pretty standard job. Now, if you're doing this job or watching this video, I hope that you've watched or going to watch all the other videos. You can't have too much information. It's about making sure you've got maximum information. Each time I do an injector job, probably do something slightly different, whatever. So there's lots of different tips and tricks in all the different videos. If you're in the VIP group, which that's where you want to be, if you've got your injectors and whatever, you're in for life, subject to this, that and the other. But anyway, basically there's a lot of short videos with tech tips, you know, how to do the alignment, how to avoid this, that and the other. So lots of little short videos. Just search everything injectors. I don't care how long it takes you. Scroll down. I try to make it easier by putting all the injector EGR related stuff in announcements. So look in announcements, but I just said I tried to. So I spent quite a bit of time doing that, by searching and then going, you know, make an announcement, whatever. Now, same way I search, you can do that too. I suggest you just try really hard to make sure you do see all those videos. There's a whole heap there I've been putting up for years. Anyway, we're going to get started on this one. And you probably wonder why I'm closing the bonnet. Basically, we're just going to look. The way I do every video is a bit different, and sometimes I don't include little bits and pieces at the start and at the end and whatever. That's why you should just watch all the videos. So this one is kind of from the start. So the first thing you want to do is get these clips that cover the windscreen wipers off. Plastic, two little plastic clips. And then you need to grab yourself a 14mm ratchet. This video could go for a long time, or it might not go for a long time. Basically, it all depends. It's very time consuming. Like at the moment, okay, the video is only sitting there, and it gives me someone to talk to. So, it's pretty early, it's about 6 o'clock in the morning. That's early for me anyway. If we want to get these done, here we go. Let's talk about the time it takes, okay? So, well, you know, how long does it take and whatever? Well, it is kind of how long is a piece of string. It all depends on your skills and aptitude as to how long it's going to take you. That's one part of it. The other part is how long you're prepared to let it take. Get the job done right and make sure it's nice and clean. So we've just removed those two 14mm nuts. Next is the actual wiper arms. Just carefully lift them up and just give them a bit of a tweakity tweak, and they just come off just like that. I don't know if you can see that in the video because I have got it pretty low. And then I generally go and sit those up on, or you've usually got some sort of roof rack there. So 1, 2, okay. They are different, left and right, so take note. And we're going to lift the bonnet up again. So you might be thinking, what's going on here? Well, that's how you find out. You watch and see, don't you? So, because this is the latest at this point in time anyway. Okay, these little side plastic clips, you just kind of, they're clipped into this piece here. You just sort of grab those and pull and wiggle and pull it towards the inside a little bit and down. Look, you can't really go wrong once you've done a few. You'll get what I mean, but they're pretty easy. Yeah. Closest corner to the engine, lift that first. Two kind of like little clip things that clip it into this big These are actually, they weren't hard, but probably the tightest ones. Bit of dirt there, of course. Probably the tightest ones I've ever taken off. Like I said, when you do a video, that's where everything goes pear-shaped. No, nothing really usually goes pear-shaped. So we're going to have a lot of information in this one. The reason I do more videos and do it again, it is going to go pear-shaped. The reason we have to do it again and again, because things do change, and it's not just about seeing what I'm doing. Probably to the point, that's probably the least important, you know, you can watch what I'm doing, but who cares, right? It's the information, you need to be listening. And I can just talk to you while I'm doing this. Same sort of clips, these two clips are the same as these ones here on the arm. So you just push them to release them. Okay, so I just use it. I use my favourite old, this is about 25 years old. Someone lost one of my screwdrivers when we were apprentice and they had to replace it. I had a Stanley set, which they were decent screwdrivers back then. Replaced it with a Synchro. Pretty funny, I've still got the same set of screwdrivers from then. Get the big flat one. This is the big old flat Stanley screwdriver, we call it the Sword. Yeah, that was, we get that. This, nearly 30 years old, there you go, man. Anyway, you've got a series of clips along here to release next. You just push that clip in there like that and a little bit of pressure upwards just to bring it up so that it stays released. Alright, so that's thread at this side. So you just got to clip them and sort of just pull it up a little bit so that they don't just pop back in. And they don't usually, but they probably will for the video. This is what I mean. When you do a video, different things happen. It's kind of cool because we do want, so they're all unclipped now, so this side's out and this side will hopefully stay there. We want different things to happen and difficulties and things because that's what may happen for you, and that's the idea of what we're going to try and cover in this video. While and I might not get the whole thing, I might just get sick of doing the video thing and switch it off and get the darn thing out of the way. But the idea is to mention all those things people have difficulties with, and it's pretty easy when you do it on your own. I get up on the roof rack so it's out of the way. Alright. So what's that done? Well, just gives us more room to get, you know, instead of this curving up over to here, we're back to here. So the EGR valve's exposed. It's easy to get to the bolts, and it's bad enough for these aircon pipes and that. Injector number 4, pretty well you can reach straight down to it rather than be on any sort of angle sort of thing. So we're just going to zoom it in a little bit for you. So we're doing things a little bit differently, trying to keep this out of the way. So you're not going to see everything of everything, but it's mainly, as I said, the information, so you can watch what's happening closely. Hopefully I can just leave that there and it's not in the way. There's other videos with, you know, cameras moving around showing you things in more detail, so don't just rely on this one alone. Just going to get some water ready. Yep. Keep yourself hydrated, you know, with water, not beer. Okay, so now I'm going to start removing the wiring out of the way. So the first clip's on the map sensor. So I'm saying things slowly because I'm going to think and try not to get it wrong, because I always say, oh, map and get things mixed up, and you can't even hear map and map. They sound the same anyway, don't they? So carefully releasing the clips, not breaking anything. Okay, that's how we do it. Just take your time. So that's back to the time thing, right? So we didn't answer that question. I don't know if you're sitting there thinking, but you didn't tell me how long it took. Well, some people some people, some places get things done a lot quicker, and that concerns me. Right, that's a bit of a pain getting to that one at the moment. I'm going to get that big flat blade again. So we just change things up a bit as we go, right? There's a vacuum line here that gets in the way of my tool undoing that clip. Having a bit of a yawn. I just woke up not long ago, you know. So I'm not really with it yet. I'm sort of a bit sleepy. Still a bit asleep, you know. So I started taking that off, and that's not right either. So now I'm going to get the quarter drive ratchet and a medium length extension. We'll see how that goes. Oh no, see, wrong one. See, brain is not working. We're going to go the short extension. 10mm short extension on the quarter drive. And let's get this guard. There's like a guard on the side here. Let me just see. I mean, you can't see it from there, but you'll see it in other videos. There's a guard over the VSV on the 150s. Obviously, this is a 150 Prado, so we're going to get in and undo that 10mm, which they can be quite tight. I know Newton meter torque setting is probably 5 or 10, but I can tell you, did you hear that? They are quite tight. I had a situation once, I might have mentioned in another video, and if I talk to you too much like I do now, when if you were here at some stage, I probably told you the story, and I'll tell you the story. I can make mistakes, or maybe it wasn't a mistake, maybe it was just I got to learn. Basically, I put one of these back on a vehicle, and I obviously didn't forget to tighten it up, otherwise, if you didn't tighten these up with the diesel vibration, the nuts would fall off and be gone. So I've nipped it up, what I thought would be tight enough, obviously. Anyway, that's fine, the car went, no problem, went away, did a big outback trip out up, I think it was the Bins track and whatever, up in Central Australia. Did a good 10,000 k's or more. Came back for another service. It's all good, you know. Waits around while I do it. It's cool. That's a little guard I'm talking about, right? Okay. So we just took that off 2 10mm nuts. We'll go and pop those on the bench. Some people say my sound's not that good. Well, it's good when I watch them, I'll tell you. Just turn the volume up or something. Maybe it's time for a hearing aid. No, I'm just joking. Well, maybe it is, maybe I'm not joking. So it's kind of a joke, but I'm serious as well. Because I do watch the videos back, and this microphone seems to pick it up really well. So I could be wrong. So we're just undoing this clip on the top of this wiring loom now. Back to that again. We're trying to anyway. It's one of those things that, for whatever reason, we can normally smoothly go through. There's one side of the clip. Look, you can get one side and then lift it up, but I don't like to. I like to get both sides. So that's what we've done now. We've got both sides. And there's a brown clip on the side here. Press and slide. Okay, now this wiring loom, I'll roll it up and sort of, when I say roll it, it'll roll as I tuck it. Gently tuck this whole wiring loom down out of the way. We like things down out of the way, right? So what wiring loom kind of thing, right? So that when it come up here, it's tucked down behind the pipes there, carefully without, without wrecking anything, sort of thing. Now we're taking the MAP filter vacuum line off, right? So we're taking off the front and the clip. Now we've just got the hose at the intake end. Right. There it is, right? So we're taking that off as an assembly. Place that on the bench. We're going to replace that MAP filter. As I've said in other videos, we recommend replacing that every few years. We used to clean them. Since they've been cracking in the last few years, obviously they crack when they get to a certain age. I'm just taking off these 2 vacuum lines down here. There's a pink and a yellow, sort of down near towards the oil filter. The bottom of this VSV bracket here. Same as the top two vacuum ones that go on the EGR valve, they're just getting slid off right now. Just going to grab a ratchet with a 12mm deep reach is the choice, just for the length to get to the bottom bolt down here. It's a bit of a fiddly one to get to. What we might do at this point is just slip the power steering reservoir out, and they don't usually just slip out, so again my little heater hose removing tool to put a little bit of pressure on the back of the clip. I can't even find where it's at. Where are you? Like I said, I'm kind of, this is how things go when you're still half asleep. Once the power steering reservoir's adrift. So this is a good one, I suppose, for the general rough order of what I'm doing things anyway. These fuel filter lines, we want to shift those a little bit out the way as well. So I've taken the clip off. The one that comes from the fuel, from the supply pump, tuck down next to this fuse box kind of thing, kind of tuck it down low to get out the way a little bit. And the one that comes from the car, from the tank to the filter, it's a bit of a tuck it down. You probably can't even see what I'm doing. I don't know if you got that in the picture there. Let me see. Yeah, kind of. Just opens up this area so I can get in here a lot more, right? So, still got the heater hose in the way. They're going to stay there. We're taking the bottom bolt out of the side. There's a side bracket on the side here that holds the VSV. So the bottom bolt's coming out first. We'll crack the top two loose as well. Alright, so they're all loose. I'll put the ratchet down. That's why I use the deep reach. Gives you a bit of something to hold on to be able to continue on and undo those. Now, what was I saying before? I don't know. Something I was crapping on about. Before I started telling you exactly what I was doing at the time. Can't have been that important, that's for sure. We'll always get back to it in another video. So, for the people watching, we appreciate you watching for a number of reasons. Obviously there's a lot of these engines, awesome vehicles and awesome engines, and the biggest problem is the whole misunderstanding and the mismaintenance of them. Once you understand them, understand the beast, and it is a beast, remembering it is a 4-cylinder diesel still. So what was I taking off there? Taking this off. So, as I said, 1, 2, 3 bolts. There they are, 12mm heads. I'll go get rid of those. Okay, so when I do videos, I don't plan stuff. I just boom, do it, right? So, and this is just how it is. Just what it is. Only interruptions we're probably going to have is phone calls, but starting at this time, hopefully we'll get quite a bit done. Currently 14 degrees. Okay. Remove this clip here. One. This one here. 2. Now we can take this off. So I'm going to use a quarter drive and a 10mm. we're going to take this little, there's a little vacuum line mounting bracket on the side. Everything's really tight here. Sure I haven't worked on this before. Yeah, no, they are pretty tight. Huh. This little 10mm bolt, generally, I'll just put it back in. It's just as easy to go like that. Take the bracket out of place and just put it in a couple of turns. And we're going to undo the intercooler piping. So this is the flexible, the flexible pipe from the intercooler to the cast. And we're loosening that off. And that should be enough. Now to get things done a bit quicker, as I've said in other videos, you don't need to worry about my skills and what tools I use. You want to call them rattle guns, is that a rattle gun? Impact driver. This is. It's not an impact wrench, it's an impact driver. As I've said before, I think it only does about 40 Newton meters, but you know, you control that with a trigger. Depending on your skills and experience, I don't necessarily recommend using that. It's one of those cases of do as I say, not as I do, sometimes. Now these mounting bolts on this intercooler piping can be usually quite, that one wasn't too bad. Someone's had this off before because some things are tight. Some things are tighter than normal and some things are a bit looser than normal. So it's not consistent with me though. So yeah, now that we crack those loose, get those out. Now there's nothing else left holding this. Bit of a wiggle and it'll all just loosen up and come off, see? Bada boom, bada bing. Then we'll put the 2 bolts that came off with that and it over here on the bench. Just going to grab a rag now and just give the clean rag and just give that a bit of a wipe. And then I'm going to fold that pipe, kind of bend it and sit it underneath the radiator hose because it's going to stop anything falling down in there. Hopefully, that's the plan. And we'll need to move that around later as well. So sliding the clamp down actually a bit further because it was at the top and it was probably going to end up falling off. So yeah, leave that bent so nothing can fall down in there. As I said before, your oil's going to look worst at the joins because that's where it accumulates. Right, this one, I think it's a standard EGR system, so you're going to get to see what that looks like typically. Just going to grab that 12mm again, or another 12mm. And the 3/8 ratchet. So most of all this work is all 3/8. The smaller stuff we go down to quarter drive, but yeah, that was tight too. Yeah, that you could just about use a 1/2 inch drive. Alright, so we're just undoing all these 2 nuts at the top, very tight, which is pretty standard. Ah, man, it's tight. So often what I do when I'm doing these, just go straight to the breaker bar, So I think these by spec are about 20 Newton meters, so this goes to show you can't reverse. Now you can't just go undo them and go, yeah, wow. That was, you know, fairly tight really. And that one wasn't. See what I mean about the little bit inconsistent what's going on here, which kind of leads me to believe someone would have had it off before. Or it was a Friday afternoon. Not in the Friday afternoon cars. No. You generally don't get that with these. I'll tell you what, the build quality on these cars, Toyotas, especially made in Japan, just second to none. So consistent the way everything is. Quality. So just give that a interesting. See, this is what I'm talking about, right? I just want to show you. I'm going to get the big heavy hammer. We love hammers here, right? I just want to go. Just put a bit of weight behind it, you know what I mean? Because it was quite stuck on there, so we're not belting things. Just a bit of a weight to give it a tap to crack that seal. But that was quite stuck. So I'll show you the back of that. Typical back of the, I don't know how much you can see there. Here you go. Typical back of the throttle butterfly without any. That's all your E-jar spray coming back spraying on your back of the butterfly there. So, go and sit that on the bench. That will get a clean up later also. Eventually, sooner or later. Sooner rather than later, I don't know. So, you're probably best to refer to removing the EGR video. There's a number of different ones. You got to follow as things happen. As the videos go up, try and watch them. Yep. Now I know sometimes I get a few going up at once. But usually they're short anyway. You know? And there's a whole. If you're newer to the channel, there's a whole heap of videos that have been going up for a while now. Hundreds of videos. You need to go back and watch those. I'm taking the two clamps off the fuel lines. The best way is to use an impact wrench to take them off and put them back on. I think these injectors have been out before because the whole, some things tight, some things loose. I'm starting to believe that the injectors have been out before, and that's probably why there's a problem now. If you were following correctly, you'll have seen a diagnostic video I put up a couple of weeks ago, right? Now I'll give you a timeline. I don't know. End of November, start of December, somewhere there. Let's chuck it out there. I don't know, 4th of December maybe. Okay. That was a diagnostic on this vehicle. And if I remember correctly, I think it was number 3 that was up and down all over the joint, right? And it is noisy. It was making knocking noises now. These will be DLC injectors. Let me have a look at the date of this vehicle. I think it's a 13 or 14. I know, 12. So 12 into 2012. So it may or may not be, but I'd say probably full DLC injectors. You're not going to have any problems with these injectors until contamination. You hear what I said? Until contamination. So, they're going to wear a little bit, the nozzle needles, as we pointed out in other videos. As I keep saying in other videos, you've got to go watch them. We can't put all the information in one video. So you really got to go and watch those, do your homework. We're just opening up the clips, the 2 clips near the intake piping first, and the next one behind the dipstick. So we need to be able to lift up this wiring loom as much as we can, right? So that's 3 clips. Now we're going to get our little, that was using a flat blade. That's what I mean, to get the little swap tools, and you know, some people, they just rip clips, and you know, you can rip wiring looms off and bust clips hey, the job happens a lot quicker. That's what we were talking about before, timing. But, you know, I know people that have spent 28 hours doing this job. That's including the manifold, right? But you know how clean it is, nothing's forgotten. Guess what, the car goes back together. There's no problems, you know what I mean? And then you've got the guys that, oh mate, you know, if you can't do it in a couple of hours, there's something wrong with you. Well, they're the people that have a lot of problems and you don't hear from them, right? You don't hear from them when they do. Oh yeah, you were right, I should have slowed down, I forgot this and that. They're not the guys there writing, oh yeah, I forgot this and that. So I'm even having trouble getting this clip undone. So what do? We just pull it and bust it? No, one side's done. It'd help if you could see what you're doing. If only lights would shine around. So that's that coolant temperature sensor plug. Don't forget to put that back on. Don't butcher any of the wires. I'll tell you a story about that one too. But let me finish the other story. That's what I was telling you before. Stories. Okay. Those two little nuts that went on the side here, right? So he's come back for another service and finished all the service, and we're sitting there having a chit chat. The bonner's open, final check. I hear this rattle, ching, 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 ching noise start. And I go around and I look, and while I'm looking at it, I'm watching one of those nuts undo themselves. It's just turning. Yeah. So I've basically grabbed it just in time. And I've got, so that was that bracket vibrating back and forth, right? And we said to each other, I said, man, can you believe that? We haven't touched that since, you know, last time, blah, blah, when we cleaned the EGR and all that. And it's gone all that time, no problem. And then, so the point is, obviously I would have nipped it up what I thought was nicely enough. So now I go a bit extra, okay? So I don't do torque settings on that, I go by hand. And I'm pretty sure the torque setting is less than what I do, because I'm pretty sure it was only 5 or 6 or 8 Newton meters when I looked it up years ago, you know? You look these things up and there's so many numbers, there's so many torque settings. Look, I try and remember the important ones, but just taking that gasket off there. Definitely feels, that is, it's getting replaced anyway, but it's still stuck. That's an unusual one, like I said. That was stuck at the other side, getting it off, as you saw. And look at this. The damn thing doesn't want to come off. Anyway, there it is, finally. So anyway, caution to those nuts on the side. Don't bust them off, over tighten them, because that's the other problem people have. Okay, so we've got the 2 clamps off the fuel lines. I feel like taking the other ones off as soon as we've done those 2. Let's do the others, I say. So we're going to grab a medium length extension. And there's 2 nuts on the side. There's a bracket on the side that bolt it to the inlet manifold. So I'll go ahead and loosen off those 2 nuts. Before you do that, you don't have to, but before you do that, let's take this clip off. There's a clip that goes on the heater hoses, just outside the fuel lines. Let's take that off and pop that aside. Unless we're doing a manifold, I don't take any of the coolant hoses off. But if you watch the other videos, you already know that. Right, so, and when these are being over tightened, because they've been off for valve clearance, and that's what we're getting at next. Instead of the nut coming off, the whole stud comes out, and that's what's happening with both of these, right? See what you know how I noticed there were a lot of things that were really tight and some things were a bit looser. Well, that's what's going on. These injectors have been out. I'm 99%, but we're working towards being 100%. Well, not the injectors have been out, sorry, because that's the correct procedure and they don't necessarily do that. Now what I'm going to do, I've got one of these studs out. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and put it in the vise and get that nut off. And the reason I'm going to do it now is because if I take both of them out, there's the plate that goes either side. There's a plate that goes either side of these lines, these clamps, right? And the one at the back may fall. So I've got the nut off and I'm putting the stud back in on one. That's just going to hold it all in place, if you know what I mean. I don't know if you do know what I mean, but Somebody knows what I mean. So now I've put the stud back in on one. So it's all quick and bada boom, bada bing done, right? You might need to go find your vise or get a better quality one that holds with the stud so it doesn't slip and wreck the studs while you're trying to undo the nut. I don't know how well set up you are, what tools you got, how much experience you got. One thing for sure, you can get it done. You can get the job done because we're showing you how to do it, giving you all the tips and tricks as we go. That's my impact driver cracking that nut loose off that stud. So now we've got the other one on. We're going to sit that stud back in place as well. Now we're going to remember to give those a bit of a nip and a tighten up. It doesn't really matter because once you tighten up the nut and everything, whatever. And I don't care if you over tighten them, it doesn't matter. As long as I'd rather have them done up. Right, so I've got those started. Then we're going to get our flat blade and separate. There's like the outside plate and then it's got rubber on it and they kind of get a bit stuck to the inner one, right? And that's what we didn't want the inner one to fall off. Just get the screwdriver in between and give it a wiggle. And off that comes, right? There it is, that's the flat plate we're talking about. There's another one identically the same goes in behind the fuel lines, and if those studs were both out, that could drop, right? And it's hard to get to because it's behind the fuel lines. So now you know why I did what I did. And that's why you watch the videos, and that's why you watch till the end, and that's why you go and watch all the other ones, anything you can find injector related, and watch it before you do your injectors. So then you don't have problems like some people have because they rushed into it. Now don't get me wrong, I know some of you know what you're doing and you can get lucky, that's cool. But some of that, look, had a couple of people in the last week or two. We'll talk about the pilot learn for a bit, right? So on the 150s and the Hiluxes from September 09 onwards, so if you get injectors off me that have got a number on saying 0460, right? You know I've, checked and repacked. I check all the stock, right? Because I don't trust anyone, right? And then I trust me. You can see the way I pack it. You could probably play football with that package and not damage anything. I suggest you don't do that. It's probably better, but we don't know what Australia Post are going to do, so that's why we do what we do. Never had a package go missing. Very rarely are they later than the standard time. It's usually a day or two. 1 or 2 days usually, sometimes 3 or 4, very rare. And no, nothing damaged. Well, hang on, we're going to do another video on that too, right? But I'll mention it because I won't say nothing damaged because technically, it might have been a few bucks worth of damage, but technically it was damaged, so let's touch on that as well. Don't let me forget that. We've got to keep moving though. So, I'll just say quickly, the injector seats are in the bag with the injectors. And the other day someone had, and probably the weight of the injectors or whatever, the way the seat was sitting, it's only copper, so it's quite soft. There was some little cut press marks into the seat, not really bad. It probably would have been okay, but considering the size of the job, not worth the risk. All right, so if that happens, sorry about that. That bloody technology starting to talk back to me. Considering the size of the job, so inspect your seats that come with injectors, and if you see, I'm not worried about the fine little scratches because they've got this coating over them. It looks like alloy, and they get quite scratchy looking, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to go and unplug the injectors while I'm telling you this anyway. I'm not worried about the scratchy looking stuff, but have an inspection of them. Look at that, look at the imprint on your thumb, trying to press that to undo that. Some of these plugs, painful, and it's, it's the 14 degrees thing that doesn't help either. Cold. I want to hear a click before I bother start pulling that plug back. Okay, that one's off. Man, painful. Ouch, sore thumb. Get a special tool for that. Look, these are easy to undo, but I think I just hammered I think I've been undoing too many of these, right? Painful. I need a new thumb. You do have to press them quite firmly. Okay, so all 4 injectors are unplugged. Right. Now I want to get the wiring loom, right? Now, so yeah, no damage. I don't know what I was cracking on about. It doesn't matter, you know. I told you about the seats. We'll do a video on that anyway. So in the meantime, if you see this video, inspect the seats a little bit. If they look like they've been hit by something hard and there's a big indent in them, then we're going to replace them, right? I can either send you 1 or 2, whatever, or you can just go to your local dealer. They're about $6 each, you know what I mean? So it is a bit of a pain, but of course I'll do that if that's what you want me to do. No problem, of course. But if you're happy to just go to your local dealer and pay the $6 or whatever it is and replace the one that's faulty, then, you know, that'll be easier and quicker most likely. And no big deal. Now I'm just releasing this brown clip. You know, I can refund you for it if you like. I can look after you on the next order, whatever you want. You know, it just doesn't matter. Whatever's easiest, right? The main thing is we get the job done right. That's how to release that brown clip. Now, there's no magic wand for that. Magic wand, woo! Basically, you're just looking for that little tab that click, 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 you know, to release it. And sometimes it works out well and sometimes it doesn't. And this time, over this side, we'll see what happens here if it was just as easy as that one. So I can't kind of see what I'm doing, so I'm sort of just making it up because I need this light around here, I think. So then I have a hope. The way to do things is to be able to see what you're doing, not guess, right? So we're getting into that little tab underneath it. You can't really release those clips out of the cover. Now what I've seen places do is just grab them and rip them out, right? That's what they do. Yeah. You people that are watching know what I'm talking about. Those people that rip them out. Oh, hang on. No, this one we're gonna, yeah, this hunt, now we're at 100%. Yep, because now I can see the clip that's broken. See, there you go. Now we're at 100% that these have been out before. Well, not the injectors have been out. Let's get to more detail, right? Okay. So this, believe it or not, what I'm going to say now, you're going to go, really? This is actually in very good condition, considering it's been pulled apart before. So I released these straps because you can't get in to take the clips out, right? But maybe this one's been butchered. And, yeah, it has, see? So now if I pull on that clip, the whole thing's going to come out. Look, see? Look, see? I'll show you what I mean. I'll bring it close to you. Right now, I don't know if you can see that. We've got a bit of a lighting issue again. See that end of that clip there? Right, it doesn't look too, see the white? So I'll get the light back a bit. That's where it's bent backwards because they've just grabbed it. You see that it's all a bit bent. I don't know if you can see, how much you can see or not, but take my word for it, right? What they've done, they've grabbed this wiring loom and gone and ripped the clip out of there. And this clip, there's a black one here, which I normally undo the strap, but so it kind of saves me time if someone else has butchered it, fortunately. But look, so we're going to put this brown one back for now. The clip's not in the best condition, but it's okay, right? It's enough to hold the wiring loom in place. There's a perfect example of something that changes how long a job takes, because you can spend 5 or 10 minutes mucking around undoing those clips, and for people that don't, right, well, they just rip it off. Of course, they're going to be quicker, right? So when you're working somewhere and you're under the pump and it makes you look good if you're quicker, things happen quicker. Believe me, being there, seeing that, done that, right? Now, when you say to someone, look, you get what you pay for, you know, skilled labour isn't cheap, cheap labour isn't skilled, and they get it, well then that's what you get, and that's the only way I roll. I'm not that skilled, but I'm just saying, you know, generally, we're going to use the 12mm ratchet spanner to get into this. It's just a little mounting bolt. A mounting bolt to the wiring loom. Well, we're just taking that out to allow the wiring loom to move around a bit more. I'm going to go put that down. That allows, we need to get maximum room going on with this wiring loom, okay? It's more time consuming to remove this whole wiring loom. It's okay on the Hilux, you get the whole loom out the way, right? On the Prado, you've got to work around it unless you're down there trying to get the rest of the loom off, which it's a pain, okay? See? No edits, mate, just the full video. Some water again, too much talking. And you might look at the time and I'll tell you now, look, 45 minutes, yeah, he's already done it. It just takes time, okay? And you can forget out the talking and the, I'm getting tools ready and thinking what tools to use and all that. Well, it might take you longer because you haven't done it before, but you might be quicker because you're better. I'm using a 10mm Sid Chrome, sorry, King Chrome. This one's a King Chrome. I'm going to give you the number. It's a CR-VK030033. It's got a bit of an angle on it. Makes it really easy for undoing these bolts. The upside down one's on the EGR, right? So there you go, I've just given you a part number of a spanner that you might want because it does make it really easy. See, now that one's cracked loose to the point of finger tightness. Well, almost, not quite, I thought it was. Sometimes they go tight again. So the point is, ratchet spanner, you can ratchet your head off until, excuse me, you can ratchet your head off until you can get it by hand. So I'm just lowering that one out, and don't drop it. So there's your little warning, don't drop, take your time. This is the thing, you rush, you drop things, and then they just leave them off, or they, I've got to spare one of those over there, mate. There's the bolt, right? We don't drop stuff. Let's see if that works out on this job. We don't drop stuff. Right. Yeah, mate. And then to get to the other one, yeah, mate, yeah, no, I got to spare one of those over there. No, none of that. None of the spare ones. What we're going to do now to speed things up a little bit, we're going to grab a longer extension, a uni joint, and a 10mm, which is already on the impact driver. I'm going to bring the impact driver over, and I'm going to take the bolt. The reason I got the uni joint, the bolt at the back of the cover. Now there's a cover over the cover, right down the back corner here. Just going to give that a quick zip, and pop that out. And this is where we'll find out if they've over tightened this one and caused problems for us. This time it came out. That's good, because what happens? They over tighten those. I've shown you in other videos. Go watch them. Basically, how they do over tighten those, and then when you go to undo it, the whole stud in the actual valve cover spins. Then you've just got to pull up on it while you spin it, and you'll get the cover off, and then you've got to put the studs in a vise and get them out, and then you've got to glue them back in the cover. So what I mean, so the people that do things quick, they wreck the car and make things take longer for us, right? Pretty well, except for these clips, because had we known, we could have just pulled on the loom and it would have been quicker for us too, because they wrecked the clips already. So, which means from then onwards they come off fairly easy. It only becomes a problem when they've wrecked stuff enough that it won't retain things anymore. So we're taking the cover off the cover before we go any further, right? And it's just like that. Right? Just got to work carefully between there and the loom, right? Cover over the cover, right? And did you hear that? That was a little washer that fell out, so let's just pop that back in place. Probably because I'll blame them, probably because they over-tightened it. But anyway, it's back in, it's all good, no big deal. No permanent damage. Alright, Right, so that's on the bench. The reason we took the cover off at that point is so when we get around here to the other upside down bolt on the EGR valve, a bit more room, because we're taking that cover, gives us a bit more room between the wiring loom and everything to swing this spanner here. And that's what we're doing. Now on the Hilux it kind of hits the stud, but the Prado hasn't got that there, which is good. We're able to ratchet away. We've done a few, as you can hear it. Oh, yeah, it's still going, so there must be a bit of resistance. Ah, now it stopped, so we can hopefully by hand. Now this is quite a fiddly one. And put the ratchet thing back on it again. Quite fiddly, fingertips maybe now. The other way to do it if you're having trouble getting it out is loosen off all your other bolts. There's a mounting bolt right next to my hand here. See this old stay for the intercooler? They've still got the bracket there because it's still got the bolt. Yeah, that's a bit tight. That's been a bit of a pain, so rather than do pain, we don't have to do pain. We'd like to minimise that. We're going to undo that bolt. You can see right in the middle of the picture, you can see the bum end of it. So we're going to get in there and undo that. And these can be quite tight sometimes as well. Oh my God, that is tight. I'm not going to push any more from there and slip. We could get a bigger bar and all that, but at this point, we're going to come around to the pull side and pull it. It was just cracking it loose was the problem, it seems. Bit of a pain. Bit of a pain trying to get the hand that I want to get my other hand in there really, because it feels like it's gonna. That's the one. Doing a few gymnastics manoeuvres to get into some areas. With your right hand the way you want it. Your left hand, right hand. You know, your right hand but not your right hand. My right but not my right, if you know what I mean. Your right but not your right. Okay, so now that we've got that out, see there was a bit of resistance getting that out too. Because the back part of the elbow, the 3 bolts are holding that to the manifold, and then this bolt here is holding that there, which puts pressure on the upside down one. So now it's easy to get off. So we can get that out by hand now. There's a couple other contributing factors, and we'll get to that when we put it back together. Hopefully this video continues for putting it back together, because that's the important part overall. I might have to have a couple of intermission breaks and I'll just join it up. Otherwise the camera will be rolling for bloody 8 hours or something. Then I'll have to hook it. At the moment it's been on the charger all night. So this bolt's nearly out. This is the other upside down bolt in the bottom of the EGR. People have over tightened those before. Don't over tighten those. Just nip them up nicely. You can go quite. Look, I'd like to think that I go very firm because I don't have any leaks. But I've never gone anywhere near pulling the threads or stripping them out now. As I mentioned in other videos, there's solutions for that. You can either just get the valve off and re-tap it, and it'll be good enough if you don't over tighten it. Or you can get some longer bolts that protrude up higher through and you can put nuts there. That'll solve your problem as well. But the best one is to avoid it in the first place. Now we've got 3 bolts to go and this EGR valve's coming on. Let's get that uni joint again while it's on there. And the 12mm. And the 3/8 drive ratchet. I'm going to bring the impact driver as well for a bit of speed. Once we crack these loose, we just zip them out straight away and then it's done, right? So that's one crack. And one undone. Let's see if it comes out. No, it's still sitting in place. That's all right. That's why magnets come in handy. Then crack that one loose. I think that's been off before. Okay, that's those two bolts. Basically, out, not out. See if we can get our hand down there. Grab one. Captain Risky, two at once. Grab two. There they are. Those two bolts out. Captain Risky, yeah, that's because, you know, do one at a time, then you won't drop it. Doing two at a time. More likely you're going to drop it. Okay, we've got to take that uni joint off, I think, for this one. It doesn't fit in too well. So uni joint off. We'll keep the long extension. This one's a bit fiddly to get to, and this is why we took the plastic shroud off here, because you could maybe try and get down there with a spanner, but now that we've unbolted the wiring lid from the top of the E-jar valve, that pushes back a little bit, but it's really hard to get a spanner in there and get a swing on it. So we use these, so wobbly, it's got a wobbly extension, you know, so you can manipulate the end of the socket a little bit. Get the socket on down there, right? Using a single hex or a 6-point socket to the go. Right, now it's not perfectly straight, it comes up on an angle and it hits this plastic loom here. That's why if you've got other wiring you need to get it out of the way. And while you're doing it, your best bet is to push. See, I'm pushing that plastic and that's allowing that extension to come up straighter. Just make sure the socket's on pretty well all the way. Keep the pressure downwards on it. And it'll just crack loose like that, right? So you're kind of against the side of the E-jar valve and against the plastic, and you're not quite straight, but that's why you've got your wobble extension in place. That's the quickest, easiest way I found to do that, right? And the idea is to make things look easy, right? Right, so that's just use the impact driver to zip that out. So that's that loose. We'll get the extension out of the way, carefully not to drop the bolt in case it comes out in the socket. And it didn't, so that's good. Get the socket and bar out of there. Now we just want to grab the bolt before it falls out. Carefully without dropping it. Come on, come on. Alright, there's your last bolt there, huh? So we'll go and put that with the other ones. Just put your bolts in groups. It's all pretty straightforward. If you want, you can mark them up. I'll give you the tip, right? The 3 that go into the manifold are the same. There's no others on this job that are like it. There's one that's almost the same but longer. That's the one that goes in here. It's longer. If you mix them up, yeah, well, you'll have one here that's too short. It won't stick through the end there. And you'll have one too long in the manifold. I think it works. I've never done it, but I think I've seen people. Trevor, I don't know if you're going to watch this video, but there was a Trevor who did have some bolts back the front, but when he came around to drop off a bottle of vanilla Galliano, thank you very much, at the time, I had a quick look over it for her. I said, well, since you're here, since you're such a nice bloke doing that, well, let's have a look, right? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to look into this manifold and have a look if it's a disaster. And some would probably think it's a disaster, but that, again, the usual, not too bad. The worst of it certainly looks, I think, looks like, yeah, the worst of it is just around, it's not even like, let me have a look in the E-jar, no, let's an E-jar over here, we've done that. Anyway, the back end of the elbow didn't look too bad. It actually looks worse right there in the manifold in the back wall there. But I can tell by looking down number 4, I'm not putting my hands in there at the moment, it's too dear. We clean all that area out, then we have a look and a feel around further up and make sure that it's sweet. So this one, I'm 99% it's not going to need a manifold clean, like usual. So we've got the E-jar off and out of the way. The next step is getting the fuel pipes off. So you've either got your crow's foot or you've been supplied a crow's foot with our kit for a lead that you can send back to us. When you send back your injectors for your free contamination check, and you know about that, don't you? Basically, it's very rare, but water does go through filters. So if you've got water in your tank, it does leave traces of corrosion and rust on the internals of the injectors. And if you've got that, you want to know about it. So if you send us back your old injectors, that would be nice, because that's what enables us to be able to learn about the injectors as well. So just cracking these pipes loose using our genuine Toyota crow's foot spanner, which is fairly useless. I would recommend nobody buys one of those. I think I was the first and last to buy one in Australia. I just wanted to own, you know, the proper SST. For that, I think it was 80 bucks for one, you know, and then you can buy a whole kit for that, you know, well, a bit more or less, but depending what brand you get. Anyway, there it is. I'll show you. The only one in Australia, SST, mate. There it is. There it is. I'll turn it around. Look, you can see it for yourself. Toyota. Can you see that? You can't even see it, can you? Here we go. Try again. Toyota. Yeah, mate. That's what I use to crack the top fuel pipes. I still use a Sidchrome one usually. If you've got a Sidchrome set, it'll be fine. I normally use a Sidchrome one for the bottom pipes down at the common rail, but these ones I supply to you guys, that we've supplied dozens and dozens and dozens of those, and you can see this one's been used, and this will get sent out to the next guy. We've got a whole heap in stock at the moment, and we've got more coming, so hopefully we'll never run out of those again, especially with everyone returning them. I'm gonna use this one because I need to know does it work. I actually haven't used one there. I mean, when I got it, I'm sure I messed around a little bit and said, yeah, that'll work, but I want to use it for the whole job and make sure, basically 100%, that it's going to work for you, and obviously it does, so no news is good news, right? So we're going to go down to number 1. There it is. The tool's on an extension. That's the length that I like, if I've got it right. And there's an adapter there to 1/2 inch. So we're going down to number 1 fuel pipe to learn how well this tool works compared to the Sidchrome one. Number 1 fuel pipe's already cracked loose, it's done. So what we do now, we're going to take that off out of the way because it gets in the way of number 2. Right, so let's see if we've got a jack in the box. Did they bend the pipes? Yeah, these pipes have been bent, right? But they've done pretty well bending them back because they only spring in a little bit. Jack in the box is where, you know, they do the valve clearance check really quickly, you know. As far as I know, most dealerships don't do it. People tell me, oh, you know, I went there and they said, we just listen and all that. So this is the general information, you know. Generally, they don't do it. By the book, they should be doing it unless they're telling you that we recommend not to do it. Number 1 fuel pipe off and go under the bench. But I can tell you, it doesn't need to be done. Now listen carefully, right? Listen really carefully, because there's a lot of people still that don't get this. They're not listening. It doesn't need to be done, okay? In my opinion. I've got to get some caps ready, so give me a sec. We're going to cap this common rail, even though we're not going to have it open that long. We're going to cap it, and the caps that I send you, they're not clean. You clean them, obviously. Look at them, dirty, filthy things. Someone else has used them. So give me a sec, because I'm going to use the compressed air and clean these caps. Yeah, so I've got these caps clean now. As we take off each fuel pipe, I'm going to cap the common rail. Now you don't have to do this. This is mainly, I'm just doing it because I can, right? It's a good idea, depends how long you're going to leave it open. If you're going to leave it open, then yeah. if you're going to do a manifold clean, and this one's clean. If you've got a clean engine bay and you're not doing a manifold clean and you're reasonably quick, you probably get away without doing this. But if you've got mess everywhere, you need to cap it. You're going to have problems anyway, probably. Alright, and that's what I'm leading to with. Okay, we're just going to undo number 2 fuel pipe. Let's concentrate on that for a minute. Cracking that one loose without damaging the next line that goes to the pump, because if you do twist it too far, you could damage that fuel line and then have a leak. Now, someone had a leak there recently. Someone had a leak, yes. And that was a job that I did, so I don't know what happened there. In the end, he replaced the fuel pipe. This is a couple of years afterwards. A pipe we haven't touched, the one from the pump to the common rail. But what I'm saying is, you have to be careful that you don't accidentally so what I'm learning now is this crow's foot isn't as good as mine, right? This is not offset, it's nice and square, right? Let me see. And there's one bigger side than the other, okay. So I might want to grind these down, I reckon, to get that up. Oh, yeah. Oh no, there it is. Okay. Okay. So that's number 2 fuel pipe is cracked loose, top and bottom. So again to the top. Once you crack them loose, that's it. You can do them by hand, you know. When you do them up, they've got to crush down and everything. So it's a bit different. Number 2 fuel pipe out of the way, go to the bench. So, some people are thinking, geez, these injectors are nearly already out. And that's right, it can be quite quick to get them out. Sometimes, depends. Okay, number 3 fuel pipe, not going to work because there's a stay in the way of things, right? Now we've mentioned this in other videos, but we're going to get the 3/8 drive ratchet and the 12mm deep reach to the top of the stay that bolts on the side of the manifold. There's like a vacuum actuatory thing on the side for the EGR operation. It's kind of hidden underneath that a little bit. Just look for the black bracket that comes up. It's got a couple of VSVs mounted on it. Right, take the top bolt right out and put it aside somewhere safe. Then we're going to change over to a medium length extension, if I can find the one I want. I think the one I'm using on the crow's foot here. So we've taken a back step because we didn't remove, what is that? 12. Didn't remove the inlet manifold stay bracket, which is going to make things a lot easier. Now we're just changing over to this. Alright, 3/8 drive extension, it's about, I don't know, 6 inches long. We need to get down to the bottom of this bracket now. This way I use my right arm to reach down right near the back near the firewall. Shall I grab that light because I need to see what I'm doing as well. Bring that down to here. Arm down near the firewall. Coming forward under the wiring loom. Actually quite easy, the Hilux ones are hard. You get down there and they are really tight. It's a 2-hand thing. You need your left hand to make sure that socket stays on and undo it about 2 turns. I go out about 3 and just go back in 1 to make sure it's not gonna, bolt's not gonna fall out, so then you don't have to deal with getting the bolt started again, alright? The bottom bolt, we don't take it out, we just loosen off a couple of turns. Now, back to where we were, with that crow's foot and everything. Right, now that inlet manifold stay, there's one other vacuum. You've got to pop that vacuum line off that actuator as well, right? So straight down here, I just use, usually a big flat blade works. Just hook it in nicely and just give it a gentle, there you go, that came off a piece of cake. Probably because it's been off before, as you were saying. Might have been an 80,000 K valve clearance check, I think. Or 120, I don't know if I did, I think I did the 130 on this, so they might have done this at 120. That's probably where everything went bad. Anyway, then you can, the vacuum line's connected in towards the engine. You can pull on it a little bit, it's got a slight resistance, and bring it out and then forward in front of that actuator. So it's out of the way so you can get to number 3 and 4 fuel pipe, which is what we're about to do now. We're going down to number 3 fuel pipe. We've got our crow's foot in position now. Got our breaker bar, and if you haven't got your battery disconnected, do not touch the breaker bar on the positive of the battery. Be very careful. You're going to cause yourself some headaches if you do that, right? And I mention that because it would be, I know people that have done it, right? They won't admit to it, but you know, so they reckon it just happened by magic. But you know how that fuse got blown? That's because you did that, right? So make sure the cover's there. Put a rag over the top of it if you need to. Zip tie it on if you need to, whatever you need to do. I'll crack number 3 fuel pipe loose. Now we're doing number 4 fuel pipe. Okay. Number 4 fuel pipe came loose quite well also. Now we just need to get that out with the crow's foot intact still. Yep, that's definitely loose. So we've finished with the crow's foot for now. And that one, the black one we supply in the kit, worked beautifully. Let's see if it works putting it back together later on. So now we're going to get to number 3 fuel pipe here. Loosen that off. Now, if you're still watching, I'm glad, because there's people that have supposed to have watched videos that didn't. Right, number 3 fuel pipe coming out. And people usually don't have problems with this job, but the key thing is if you haven't watched the video, at least, that's what I said, you only retain 10% of what you read, right? So, or hear or whatever, right? So if you watch this once and then go do the job without referring back to it again, you could end up in trouble. Because you only got 10% of the job. So watch it again, watch it again, watch it again. Keep watching it, right? And this is going to be the latest one, hopefully with the latest information, because I will tell you about the pilot learn and the few issues people had. I'm getting to it. I'm telling you things the whole time. The mouth hasn't stopped, does it? I'm going to get rid of number 4 fuel pipe. All the fuel pipes are off. Now this is the important part. You get that little dodgy red sit chrome screwdriver or whatever screwdriver you want. Get that ready. We're going to put 2 more caps on the number 3. Number 3 on the common rail, if we can get that started. Yep. Number 4. Okay, so those caps are on the common rail. Now, someone put a post up the other day. How do you get these seals off? And they've got the cover off already. No. These nozzle seals at the injector inlets, they come out now. There's a little slot at the top, and you just pop them out like that. Right? Out they come. Now. Okay? I just showed you that one, got rid of that one. They're really quite easy to get out. This is a big part of your risk of contamination. The fuel pipe's coming off, and that's why I'm saying about the fuel. The valve clearances don't need to be done. You know, don't worry about what I say. Listen to what Toyota in their workshop manuals say. You know, they talk about the risk of contamination. Do not avoid things that, you know, risk contamination. Well, doing this is massive. All the dirt and that collects in these, you're tipping it straight into the injector inlets when you take those off. So these injectors could be trashed. I mean, they're getting replaced. We don't care. That's why we haven't taken that much care. We're showing you how to get it apart when you're going to replace your injectors. Because our belief is if you're pulling it apart, you are replacing injectors. You're not pulling it apart to check valve clearances every 40,000. That's going to risk contamination, or just about guarantee you're going to stuff your injectors. Okay, so you're not doing that. I know the injectors from all the ones, the valve clearances from all the ones we've checked over the years and people have checked and feedback. These valve clearances very rarely go out. So we're going to check them when we replace the injectors. We're not going to just check them every 40,000. We're just going to check them when we replace the injectors. When are we going to replace the injectors? When we replace the seats. When are we going to replace the seats? Well, the injectors and the seats, funnily enough, are due at around about 170,000 Ks or 7 years, whichever one comes first. A few variables to that, which I've explained in other videos. Now, on that note, I'm going to take a little break, and I'll restart this video once I'm back with you. Hour and 15 minutes. Bada boom, bada bing. Okie doke. Thanks for letting me have that little break. Next step is removing the valve cover. Right, so we've got the pipes, we've got the nozzle seals off. Okay. And then we need to get this. These are usually pretty soft and pliable, easy enough to get on and off. That's how I do it. Never damaged one, never had an issue. There was one on one car. It was hard. Remind me something off an old Holden. Anyway, it was rock hard, totally bizarre. Wasn't an old one. I don't know what someone had put through it, but it was rock hard. That's all I can tell you. Now we're going to get the uni joint. 3/8 drive extension, uni joint, 10mm. We want to get over here and take the two most rearward bolts out of the valve cover first. Okay, I'm going to use the zip. There's one loose, and the other one also. One's out, and the other one's out, so two are out. You want to get rid of the uni joint is my recommendation. Get rid of it. Okay. Grab your 10mm on your impact driver and zip out the top two at the front. Make sure it's still on, backing them out. Yep. 1, 2, 3. Don't lose those nuts, because there is 2 nuts, and usually they don't go anywhere, but if it was in a video, now you can do as many of these as you like, but everything goes one way and you do a video, things change anyway. There's a nut right there as well. So there's 2 nuts, pretty obvious where they go. So you can take note of which 2 are the nuts. Quickest, most efficient way, I think, is then you grab your magnet, because you're not going to drop it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I don't have to climb up again either, I can reach in. 6. Did you hear that? I dropped one. Never done that before. Let me just find that. Might be far away. Jeez, I can't see it anyway. I'll go and put the rest of the hand in there. See what I mean? Like, I'm literally just lifting them with the magnet, and you can't, look, you know, I'm telling, I'll do a bad, this magnet, they're just not coming off. But, and I've always done this in handful, and then I go put them all down together, which I'm doing here. Except for the fact we've got one missing, because I had to somehow let one slip out of my finger. Where did it go? I don't know where it is. So I'm just going to have a quick look if it takes too long. Not under the car. Must have gone under the shelf. Is it? Kidding me, are you? I'm going to grab this light. tell you what happens when you drop things. Waste time. We'll find it though, because that's what we do. Oh, there it is. Found it. There was a nut, not a bolt. You wouldn't believe where it was sitting. And that I found it that quick. If you hung around. If you didn't go, oh, what's he looking for bolts now? It must have bounced off the ground, back up, higher than the height of the tyre. It was sitting up on the rim, okay? Didn't get dropped on the ring, definitely hit the ground. But, oh no, might have hit the milk crate. Anyway, we found it. Let's just do a count now to make sure. 2 nuts. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bolts, right? 10 bolts, 2 nuts in case you're wondering. Now you get your big sword again. Over here to the front corner. And there's a nice flat spot there where you can just go, all we want to do is crack it because there should only be sealant on the front part of the cover. 4 prescribed dobs here, we'll cover that. We've covered in other videos a number of times, but people come along and they don't like going back watching old informative videos. They just want to watch from here onwards, so we do stuff again. Sorry for the people that have watched all those and seen stuff that looks like this, but there's always a new bit of info. So we crack that loose, then we should be able to just grab, say, the oil cap and the hump at the back here. And we don't want to roof it off because we don't want to damage these top seals on the plastic solenoids, right? These seals are not a standard replacement part. You don't replace those, you don't need to. Right? You just gently rock it back and forth. Right? Until they're clear, and then you use your left hand to hold the wiring loom so the gasket's stuck down because you know how we said this has been apart. So the gasket's fallen out. I'm just taking the valve cover away. Back in a minute. Valve cover's on the bench. The gasket didn't stay in the valve cover, probably because they replaced the gasket when they had it apart. 100% it's been apart, and the gasket stayed here because probably maybe they used some sealant at the back as well. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. Nothing wrong with the gasket either. Whatever, you know, it's all good. It's good that they've just used the prescribed 4 dobs at the front. Generally, that's a pretty good thing. That's what it looks like anyway. We're going to have a closer look. It's pretty clean in here. We've been doing the services only every 10,000 Ks. Alright, standard EGR system. And it's quite clean in here, which is good. So, I normally clean... So you're saying, oh, the prescribed... What's this prescribed dob? What? Where? You know, it's like a doctor's prescription, right? Except Toyota prescribed things in the manual, where to put the sealant. The prescribed areas are at the front of the head. Right? We've said it in other videos, so you should know already if you're watching this one, because there's older videos, and even if you're doing your injectors, whatever, I suppose you can watch this one. You can watch this one first, but still worth watching the other ones, right? So we like to give this a clean up. Not that there's much to clean because it's not an off-roader. The 4 dobs, right? There's like a half moon in front of this camshaft. A tiny little dob each side of that, just on the joint. And where the hump is at the other camshaft, tiny little dob each side of that. So we need tiny, that's all you're going to use that ultra grade for. That's it on this job. You use it for other stuff in your life, but you know, that's all you're really going to use it for here. So we've cleaned the back, we've cleaned the other side. Pretty good anyway. See what I mean? You just got to work around this wiring. Just ignore it. I know it gets annoying, right? They used to annoy the hell out of me, but I just ignore it. Just pretend it's not there. It's just something that's in your way, and you just got to work around it. Don't lean on this, on that. If the camera's focused there at the moment, but careful what you lean on the top of the radiator at the passenger side. There's a bypass little plastic plug and hose. Don't lean on that because there has been people contact me that have leant on that, regretfully obviously. So a few people I've spoken to that have had that issue. Okay, so that's all not, it's actually quite clean. It's ridiculously clean. So we're just going to wipe over the front as well. Feels like that silicone stuff there is pretty well stuck. They've used black. We use grey. Factory's grey. We like to use grey. You can't see what I'm doing, so I'm going to end that video while I clean that silicone stuff. Okay, so we're a little bit from the side now. All I've done that is, what do? Yeah, clean up the silicone on the front of the head. That was a fair effort because, yeah, black stuff everywhere. Kind of 4 dobs, but just really small is all you need. They're like big bloobs and they just go everywhere. Anyway, cleaned all that up. Also cleaned and washed, blue dry the valve cover. That's sitting out in the sun to finish drying. And prepared, got the gasket ready to go to put that in there. So, you know, whatever. Spent 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever. So now I was gonna clean the EGR, but things change. You got to roll with the punches. We're gonna get these injectors out. So next thing is 12mm on the 150s usually. The early ones might have had the 17mm still, so there is a variable to this, but you can figure it out. 12mm and the throughout drive ratchet. We're just going to get in there and crack those little return line bolts loose. It's on the back of the injector there. Alright, again that 6-point or single hex socket. Right, 1, 2, 3. These are the ones that are 16 Newton meters. Right. 4, 16 Newton meters. Okay, so no confusion. Right, so those 4 all crack loose. Now we want to get to the one at the back of the head. It's a little bit more awkward to get to, so we need to use a longer extension. I'll tell you what I like to use. I'll just do what I normally do. I'm going to get it's a 12mm deep reach I use. With the, actually no, I'm not going to, yeah. I am. 12mm deep reach with a short extension, and I just put on the 1/2-inch breaker bar, right, like that. And I don't think I needed the extension with this one. That's what I mean, every car is different, not all the 150s, but I think that's with a Hilux or a 120 anyway, it depends. Actually I use the extension in the short socket, or I use the long socket without the extension. So anyway, whatever. Geez, that's tight too, so yeah. Maybe they did have that off, we'll see. So we just want, but then sometimes they are a bit tight, that's why I use that bar. Now, then just by hand, if possible. Now it depends, because these washers, they're funny buggers. There's a double-sided washer. Again, I cracked those, they were finger tight, but they got tight again. So I'm going to get rid of that bar. I'm going to bring the throughout drive ratchet with a long extension and just see what's going on there, because that was cracked loose, but it got tight again. Maybe there was some twist going on. Okay, so all these 4, I just want to back them. We're not taking them out. We're just backing them right off so that we can lift the whole rail off with those in place. When I say rail, it's not really a rail, the proper correct name. It's where the fuel returns to from the injectors back towards the fuel tank and that in the end. So I like to call it the return line, but it's called a leak back pipe. And sometimes we incorrectly call it leakage pipe. And if you talk to someone enough and tell them leakage pipe, you say leakage pipe, you get them saying leakage pipe, which is actually wrong, but it's pretty cool that you can do that. Just gotta, you know, the leakage pipe, the leakage pipe, the leakage pipe, the leakage pipe, the leakage pipe. You'd be calling it a leakage pipe, but there's nothing, you'll have a problem if it's a leakage pipe. That's what we don't want. Now, what happens is these washers, double-sided washers, they twist up and they're a pain and all that. Now, the one at the back here, that's what it's done. So it's a real pain to get it undone. So you can either put your ratchet on there and undo it, or you can persist. I'll show you one other thing that sometimes works. We'll try this. You can put your impact driver on there and just zip it out, or you can get your flat blade in between the top of the washer and the head of the bolt and try and push it down a little bit. Because basically what's happened, the washer's getting caught under the head of the bolt kind of thing, and it's coming with it instead of staying at the pipe and allowing the bolt to turn, so the bolt won't turn anymore, and that worked. Right, so now we've got it all finger light. So now they're all undone. We're just going to grab that rail, right, as it is like that, and go and put on a nice usual spot on the bench. And what you do then is you just check and make sure you got all your bits. Right? What do you mean all my bits? Well, make sure you got all your bits. Those double-sided washers, when you do them up, they can twist. Quite often they twist, depending how good your alignment and stuff like that is a few. That's one thing that determines, can contribute to them twisting or not, right? Now at this point what you can do, you can get this wiring loom out of the way a little bit. Show you what I do. Alright, just have your wire not in the clips, next to them, and you can give it a bit of a pull. And not always, sometimes it'll hook in behind there, again more the 120 thing. So the number one clip I've just moved out the way. That'll generally keep it out the way. You can, if you want to put a rag around here and put an ocky strap, right? And this number 4, you can just bring that around and just hook it around under here gently, right? And you can put a rag there, an ocky strap, and then pretty well this is out of your way from everything you want to do. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just telling you, you can do that if you like, right? That's pretty well out of the way of everything you want to do. We want it down low and forward like that. And just ignore it, right? So then what we're going to do, get that bigger bar again. With the, I like to use, this is just the standard size 1/2" breaker bar with an adapter. I like to use the long socket. Like I keep saying, 6-point or single hex, 6-point, whatever. You know what I mean by 6 points? See on the points here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what they call a 6-point socket, right? And I'm going to be like just all awkward looking here because I've got a camera there and just doing the. So look, I'll turn them all a little bit. Try and speed things up a bit. Just going to zip these out, make sure it's on undo, right? Speed things up. Like a time-lapse video that's not in time-lapse. Right. Then you get your rag in your left hand. And you go. I'll put them back in their order. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they'll go on the bench in that order. 4, 3, 2, 1. Right? Doesn't matter, they're the same. Don't worry about the rumour going around that there's a different one or whatever. That's just people that start rumours trying to confuse you to make the job, you know, sound harder than it is. It's not. They're the same. They're all the same. Bada boom. There's nothing holding the injectors now, so we can go ahead and grab them out. So that's what we're going to do. Remember we said hopefully that all this stuff's out of the way. Just tuck that number 1 plug down there a little bit. Oh look, that one had to come back. Look, so this is what I mean, the plugs come back. You just got to ignore those a little bit. Grab the injector, give it a bit of a twist and a pull. I'll just go like that so I can catch the fuel. Right. It's number 1. Looks like a fairly normal injector at the moment. There's not going to be any blow by on any of these, I don't think. Because I don't think they actually had the injectors out. I think they worked around them to do the valve clearances, right? Number 2, twist and pull. Often it's just a bit of suction that's stopping them from coming up. So that's all you need to do. Look, I'm just putting the rag there to catch the fuel and whatever, but you can't see what's going on. So I'll try and watch the sharp edges of the camshaft lobes as well. That's the other reason I have the rag there. Well, it's a bit of a twist. I'm getting to a long reach now, but anyway. Twist and pull, and up it starts coming up. So you saw the fuel leak out everywhere. That's why I have the rag there. It doesn't really matter anyway. It's not going to do anything. We'll go around to the side here to get the last one. I'll tell you what, we'll do a little thing just to show you. These will come out, I just need to put a bit more pressure, but if you do have them stuck, your number one way to get them out is with your little pry bar. You can turn your lobes of your camshaft down on the one you're working on. You can just do a bit of leverage like this, you know what I mean? These aren't stuck, so just showing you. That's done some stuck ones, don't you worry about that. All right, pretty straightforward. There it is. Okay, that's what they're going to look like when they come out. So you could say getting the injectors out doesn't take that long, maybe. That's how long it takes. You can do the sums. I've done a few though, so maybe I'm fast, maybe I'm slow. This one, no complications, it just came out, you know what I mean? But we've got plenty of cleaning to do now. We've got to prepare the new parts, record all the compensation codes, make sure we get it all in the right order. No point putting them back to front. We're going to clean all those ports. We're going to make sure all the seats came out, so we're going to have to take a quick look at the injectors. 1, 2, 3, 4, they're all there. If they're not there, we're going to lift those out of the ports. The next thing we're going to do is use our port cleaning dowel. Right, I'll show you if you don't know what I'm talking about. Right. Comes included in our injector kit if you ask for it, okay? If you ask for it. I've said that in other videos on YouTube, if you ask for it. There it is, right? There's the port cleaning dowel. 16mm bit of dowel. If you didn't get one, you can go to Bunnings and grab yourself a length, chop it up and send it to everyone else. Cut rags into strips. It's in other videos. I'm not going to go into it now. We're trying to keep this one what this is, right? Cut it into strips and we're going to stick that down there. The timber's not going to damage anything. There's no need to cut the seats. You're best not to. If they've been damaged, maybe. If you've got damaged seats in the head, talk to me. That's when you ring me and say, hey, what do I do? It's not going to happen, mate, you know? Anyway, really, that's what I'm saying, okay? So we're going to go ahead, we're going to clean these ports. We're going to check the valve clearances. We're going to get out the new injectors, prepare those and all the other parts ready to put it back together. So that's also time consuming. We're going to clean the EGR valve. We're going to clean up in the manifold. So we're going to spend a good couple hours or so now cleaning and preparing for the put back together. Checking the valve clearances in other videos in the VIP group. I'm not sure if I've got it on YouTube itself, but it's not in this video, right? This is pulling it apart and putting it back together, and we'll run through all the torque specs and everything shortly. All right, so we've been really busy. I'll run through quickly through the things we've done. It's in other videos, so it's on YouTube or it's on in the VIP group is on Facebook. It's the same as the YouTube channel name, 4x4 Diesel VIPs. You can't join that. People ask, how do you get in? Where's that? How do you get in that? Well, you purchase the parts. You got to call me to do that. So you call me, you purchase the parts, you ask, and I'll tell you, join the group, answer the questions, bada boom, bada bing, there you are, you're in the group, you can watch all the videos, unleashed, everything. Okay, so in this video, it's basically a remove and replace. We're not showing you all the cleaning and all the, I'm giving a few tips and tricks, but there's a lot of other shorter tips and tricks, and in the longer videos, yeah, there's longer ones, other information. So you really need to watch all those injector videos, injector replacement, if that's what you're doing. It is a big job, and it's really a specialized area, so specialist area. So what we've done is we've cleaned the ports. That was a while ago. We did that. We checked the valve clearances. Of course, they're okay. We remember to take the ratchet and the 22mm off the crankshaft. That's important. We've cleaned all the EGR and just that start of the intake manifold. That's all it needed. It was fine. If you're putting a plate in or something like that, then you go ahead and do that. This is the time to do that. Well, before you get to this stage. It's up to you whether you do that or not. As I said, I'm not telling you whether it's legal or not and what state and whatever. The EGR system still works. It reduces the flow. It's a flow reduction plate. That's what I can tell you. It's a grey area. I can tell you that it definitely works really well. The EGR valve stays alloy in colour, but it's your call whether you're going to do that. The way, if I was going to install one, or what I'd recommend and what I see works, is the gasket stays stuck against the head, the plate goes over that, and then the cooler goes over that. Just one gasket, you don't touch it, you don't remove it. If it comes off, check it out. If it's got the flake, the black's flaked off, then replace it with the one that you got off. And if you didn't get one, then you probably want to go and get one of those. Look, it probably won't leak anyway. It's up to you if you can't be bothered and you want to try it. Just giving you the advice either way. So all that preparation's done. We've got the injectors out. They're all uncapped except for the red caps, of course. We've got a photo of our conversation codes. All the ports are clean. We do a double check right before we put the injectors in. You know, we get our mirror and we go, you know, I don't know if you can see that, but look, I can see it anyway. I've just checked all four with a mirror like that. And there was a little bit of oil. What happens at number 4? Bit of oil runs down there, just around the outside of the hole, not too bad. So we put out, this is our dowel with our final one down there and just got that bit of oil. Anyway, they're all spotless like mirrors you've seen in our other photos and videos, and we are ready to put the injectors in, so that's what we're about to do. So if you want to see more detail on EGR cleaning and manifolds, that's in other videos. Checking valve clearance in other videos. You know how to do it. You just, when you're in the group, in the VIP group, at the search, just go search group and write valve clearances or check valve clearances or injectors or whatever you want to know about, and keep going through it all. Try different words. There's heaps opposed to hundreds. Okay, so the Molykote, we've used Molykote, and if you buy the injector kit off us, obviously that's an optional whether you've got it or not. You know, the Molykote, this stuff here, hard to buy, easy to get ripped off if you buy it elsewhere. We just put it in at cost price if you ask for it. Anyway, we use it on the O-rings on the MAF sensor there, on the airbox, on the O-rings on the injectors, changing fuel filters, all sorts of things like that. Okay, that's what we like to use. The tube will last you a lifetime. The tube lasts me probably a year or whatever anyway. So we're going to get organised and plonk these injectors back in and keep putting this back together slowly. We're going to need to take a break every time the phone rings, so you'll hear that in the background if that happens. We're getting towards possibilities of phone call time. So what we need to do next, we've made sure all the seating areas are clean. We've got our nice, clean, brand new, genuine seats that came with injectors. We've inspected them, checked that there's no damage on that flat surface mainly, the one that's about 2 mil wide, the seating surface. Okay, and what we're going to do, cleanly just drop them down the hole. Is the best way to do it. There's other ways to do it. There's other ways that work as well, but this is probably the best way to do it. Don't drop them anywhere else but down the hole. And then you're going to have the problem of they don't always land flat. So you get your mirror out again and your light if you need to. And I can tell you that number 4's not flat, number 3's flat, number 2's flat, and number 1's not flat. So we've got to give number 1 and 4 a bit of a jiggle. So we get our cleanest, most boring screwdriver, whatever. It just happens to be our, you know, that Sid Chrome red handle one. I'm just going to go bit of a jiggle. No need to stick it in the hole and get it dirty or anything like that. It's just a bit of a jiggle, and then usually you check. That one's sitting flat. Let's check these. Double check, doesn't hurt. Okay, they're all sitting flat now. Okay, so we've got our number 4 injector we're going to put in first. Okay, so there it is. Red cap stays on. Okay, O-rings lubricated with a Molykote. Number 4, in she goes. So up there. Just put it in cleanly. No need to touch the surface on it. We don't want any oil, dirt, debris. So that one, I'll just touch on a little bit about the fitment. Obviously, years ago they used to be looser. We believe Denso changed the size of the OD of the injector a little while ago, because maybe it happened by accident, but probably on purpose. See that? It just popped in. They don't always go in that easy or that hard. That's why you watch the videos, right? Because it does vary. Right, that plug out the way, just a gentle. Okay, we've got a phone call. We've got a phone call happening, so I'm going to pause that one and we'll resume as soon as this call's finished. Okay, so you didn't miss anything, it's all good. Back to as we were. Just a bit of a gentle twist. and a little bit of downward pressure sometimes. Try to keep it twisting, and this is why it's important it's lubricated. So I'll get the number one in, I'll get the first one in. 1, 2, 3, 4, for those that don't know. Number one's the front of the engine, okay? So in these vehicles, the end we're at, of course, number one. Okay, so that just went in really easy as well. Now, the situation you got at the moment is the injectors are sitting in, so that's good, the holes are plugged. You can see that is loosely twisted like that, so they could be on any sort of angle. Right, this one's a bit tighter, which is good because that means there's less play there. The less is better, right? And they all vary, and this is the deal. So they used to be, I reckon they used to be a bit smaller, and they'd all be looser and they'd be pretty floppy. You could wobble them back and forth in the holes. Now when you clamp them down, the clamp's at the top, the seat's at the bottom, so it's like a banana effect. So they sort of bend, and you know, that's why every injector's got a rub mark on the side of it. Now, by making it bigger, obviously there's less movement there, okay, particularly at the middle of the body, and that's what we've noticed. Now, obviously, if they did this, they probably went and measured a lot of heads and went, okay, there's a tolerance there, and they need to be within, you know, whatever, so they need to fit. So what you end up with is anything from a really tight fit to a bit looser because of the tolerance of the heads, and they've been around for years and they can't change that. That's out there on the road on a car, so they'll think they've gone as tight as they could. Or I'm dreaming, but anyway, that's what I think happened. That's what I've noticed. I noticed at one point, all of a sudden, so it's gonna vary. One might be tighter than the other. One set in one car they'll all be a bit tight. If you're having trouble getting them in, don't hammer them or hit them or anything like that. It shouldn't be that hard to get in. You can take them out, have a look on the nozzle what part's rubbing, and you can put a bit of lubrication, a bit of Molykote on the bit that's rubbing. That may help a bit. All I can say is push down generally on around here like that on the solenoid, but on the metal part, try not to press or drop or bump the plastic. It's pretty strong, but you know, we don't want to mess with that. It's got to last in the vehicle for the next 5 to 10 years. Press down there while twisting this part here. We'll usually get it home. Now, if you don't quite get it home, that's okay. If it's a couple mil off the bottom, just make sure it looks aligned. You can start putting your return light on, which is what we're going to do now, and that'll help align everything anyway, step by step with this part. And you need to watch the other videos on injector alignment because it's a really important part, and we're not going to go too much into it in this video. But once you've got it all aligned, you can then put the clamps on, and you can gently, just by hand, you won't be nowhere near the torque setting because it's just those clamps, as you nip those up, they'll just pull the injector down, okay? But you don't want to go too tight. You want to make sure that the light pressure is pulling the injector down. Once it touches the seat, then we're just going to, even if you need to, back it off a tiny bit, and then so we can move the injectors around to get the alignment right. Now let's do that now. So they're sitting in, the seats are in, we double check that, sitting flat, injectors are good. We took a photo of them or wrote down the compensation codes, making sure all the numbers are right. If you don't get the numbers right, that's when it's not going to work, okay? There's only a few reasons injector compensation codes don't get accepted into the ECU, and that is if they're the wrong injectors, something funny is going on, engine swaps and whatever, the age of the vehicle. That's why we're really careful with the checks we do sometimes to make sure you get the right injectors. E's and F's look a bit the same, you know. When someone's reading out a number, O's and 8's, or an O's not an O, it's a 0, right? So O is a letter and 0 is a number. Just be aware whether you're talking O's or zeros and try and say 0, not O, because anyway. Right, E's and F's look the same, right? So just make sure you got it right, 30 digits. Don't worry about that little, you know, symbol on the end there. Don't worry about that, right? Now, so what we're going to do next is we've prepared our return line, or leak back pipe. We've given a bit of a clean up, but this one's a bit stained because, you know, it's 150,000 Ks and 10,000 K oil changes with all the EGR soot contaminating the oil, right? So we've just set the return line in place. All new washers, those 5 washers come in the injector kit, right? They are single use only, so the deal is you don't reuse those, okay? I mean, some places do. Now, this is where you may need to move the injectors back and forward a little bit just to get it all started, okay? It doesn't matter too much about cleaning about what am I saying? Yeah, I'm trying to see, multitasking. Actually, just wondering if I'm just wondering, because this one, it had a valve clearance check. I'm just trying to work out whether they actually had the injectors. I don't think they had actually, they look original. Anyway, so back to what I was saying, just get all those started. I'm just going to go around the other side here, because it's getting to be a bit of a reach over the bull bar, doing it from there. Okay, so you just need to give the injectors a bit of a tweak. It's really a two-handed effort. So, and I'm not doing the best demonstration because I'm always trying to stay out of the view of the camera so you can see a bit of what's going on, because I'm sure someone's sitting there going, oh, I didn't quite see what I wanted to see there. Anyway, we're getting the one at the back started, the one that goes into the head, and we're going to take them all the way in by hand, right? The washers, you can bring them back to the left or to the right, doesn't really matter. One way to look at it, if you got it at the left, if it twists here, right, when you do it up, it's only going to go to the right. But then sometimes by having it to the right, the support of being against the pipe works better, if you know what I mean. One of the best ways to pre-align the injectors is to wobble this injector back and forward as you're tightening it up, or by the bolt while you're tightening it. See, as it's looser, see it moves heaps like that. But as you slowly tighten it up, if you just keep wobbling it back and forth as you tighten it up, it kind of centralizes in that hole. Okay, now you can put your washer back or forward, like I said. You know what, in this one, we're going to go forwards against the pipe. These 12mm bolts, much better than the 17s. Same deal, see, wobbling it back and forward as we tighten it up. Now this is a pre-alignment, we're going to check it. We've got a way we check it, okay? Don't worry about looking at them, they're too hard to look. Don't worry about where the solenoids are, they're torqued to specification, so they could be a little bit off, it's just where it ended up, right? Yeah, so what we want to worry about is holding that bolt, just wiggle it back and forth if it goes, till it centralises in that spot, finger tight as you can, right? Because that's probably where they're going to end up. Now with the clamps, you can wash them or not wash them, you can re-oil them. You should re-oil them if you wash them. Again, they're quite stained. We usually give them a quick clean up, but we don't sit there scrubbing the staining off, and we do re-oil them. So it doesn't really make much difference. They're going to get cleaned in the engine by doing oil changes. There's no point. What am I doing? What a bad example that was. Anyway, you probably don't need to see exactly what I'm doing. I'm just sitting the clamps, just make sure they're sitting in the right spot. So one end of the clamp's got a little ball, and that sits over the top of the camshaft retainers, over the bolt in the middle, right in the head of the bolt. So just make sure they're sitting. They're pretty hard to get in the wrong spot. They just kind of sit where they want to be, and the bolts go in the hole too. Grease on the thread, grease under the dome washers, right. Okay. Now that we've got those sitting in place, we're just going to run them down a little bit with the impact driver. Oh no! Yes. Just for the first click. And that'll just make sure they're all the way down, because sometimes they got another millimetre to go, whatever. There's basically no pressure on those whatsoever. Now what we're going to do, we've got a test fit valve cover. Now we've cleaned all the head surface before we pulled the injectors out, and we've re-cleaned it, but I might clean it again. But what I'm going to do at the moment is, we've got a test fit rocker cover here, a spare one, so we're not using yours all the time with these solenoid seals, because we like to avoid that if possible. But with the seals being lubricated under the valve cover, and we'll get to that, they generally slide on pretty easy now. I've said it in other videos, just make sure you get the plugs out, not in the way there. Alright, do not force this on. If you've got the Hilux, sometimes you need to bend that, or even the Prado, but it depends if the engine's been changed or whatever. See, that just fell over the solenoids, but we're not pushing it down. There's red caps there. The red caps around the other side. If you push it on, you won't get it off. Don't do that. What we're doing, and I'm not going to bring the camera around and show you, I'm going to explain to you, right? We come around and we look in here in these holes, right? And with that cover sitting there like that, if everything is central, if these injectors are all lined up centrally, those red caps, they're not going to be in the middle of the hole as in because of the height, hasn't gone all the way down, right? But the alignment left to right, you'll be able, it works better like this because when it's something central to the hole, it's a bit hard to pick. This works really well because they're towards the bottom of the hole, and I can see the alignment on this one is dead set perfect. And if they're not, I'm just going to give you an example. Let's say you've got one that's a smidgen out, right? Whatever a smidgen is. Because everything's loose, you can just get your flat blade in here and just gently, because you've got your caps on, it's not going to hurt the plastic of the cover here. You're not putting a lot of pressure, just a little bit, and just give it a little, probably just hold a little bit of pressure on the cover and just give it a little tweak like that, and that'll just push the injector back or forward, whichever way you want it to go, right? In our case, it's all perfect. Happy days. Happy days, happy days. So we're just going to lift that cover back off again, gently wiggling it back and forward, the same as the first time we put it on and off. Right. Lift up that wound, make sure we don't get any plugs caught or hit any solenoids. Now, but we know we've got it all lined up, because remember, these are single use only, all these parts, all these components. Now that we know that it's aligned right, we can go ahead and torque down the injectors, because that is very important, right? Probably one of the most important parts of the job, making sure the injectors are torqued down correctly. So we're going to get our preferred torque wrench is the Warren and Brown 321500. You don't have to have one of those, you know. You can get them off Repco at the right price for about $250 or off eBay for about the same price. Thereabouts. The hardest part is finding the tools you want when you want them. So I'm going to use a short extension, a 12mm single hex or 6 point. Now, who knows the injector torque setting? You should know by now if you've done your homework. 22 Newton meters, is that right? 22. Right, so just setting that now. 22, double check it. You know, you don't want to do the wrong torque setting, right? Nothing hard about using a torque wrench, is there? Right, the key is you want to be on the swing when it clicks, right? You don't want to be kind of like stopped or whatever. So it's important to try and get in the right position, and I'll double check it though. And if it goes a bit more, because they're a bit funny, the way this all happens, because it can actually click off on the move without hitting anything, and then you go again to double check it and it turns. Now if it turns when you go to move it again, then keep going. But usually when you've torqued something off on the move, if you stop and try again, it's definitely going to click straight away, but these don't. They usually do, but not always, okay? So when we think we're getting close, make sure we're in a position that we're on the move. Look at that. And that just went so easy as soon as I started moving, and it didn't seem like I had a lot of pressure on it. So just be aware. It's not a lot of pressure on these. So you might think it's not enough, but okay, we're just going to go over and double check them all, front to back. Right. Yeah, that's not moving. Remember to hold the handle, not the bar, depending on what torque wrench you know. Hold the handle. And a good check is to look at your torque setting again when you're done. Make sure, was that 22 Newton meters? Right, now we're going to do those ones on the side on the return line. So, back to who knows it. set at 16. If you're not sure about your 16, I'd rather you be over than under. I don't care if it's 7 or 18. A little bit over is not going to matter. You know that Bailey's Mob, they've got an online guide for doing this injector job. In my opinion, it's not that good, but anyway, they say 25, 20. So all these torque settings that are 22, 16, 13, notice there was 320, I'll say it again, 13, 16 and 22. And then the fuel pipes, brand new, are 32, 35 if you're reusing them 2 or 3 times. After that, they're rubbish anyway. That's why we replace them. We don't know how many times they've been off. New injectors, new pipes is the rule. Clean, there's lots of reasons. I'm not going to go into that in this one. Anyway, their online guide, last time I checked, still said 25. It says 25, 25, 25, 20. Everything had 25 on it. Correct me if I'm wrong or if they've changed it. Don't even look at it. Anyway, my point is, if people have been doing them at 25, 17, 18, 19 is going to be okay. So what I'm saying is I'd rather a little bit over than under. So let's get in there and do what I'm going to do actually for number 1 is lift the wiring loom up out of the way because of the position it's in. Again, on the swing, I'll double check it. Beautiful. I'm going to go back to the next position because I feel that it's not going to make it, but there it is. Right, now we'll lower the wiring loom down for number 3 and 4. Okay, let's see if we can get back to there. Ooh, not going to make it back there. Let's see if we can get back there. I reckon it's close. Come on. Oh, just. Okay, here we go. Cool. See what I mean? Usually when you've done them up and they've clicked off on the move, when you go to start try to move again, not going to happen. Right, I'll go a little bit more on that one so I can get to the next position. Okay, hopefully. Ooh. But I like checking them anyway. Double, triple check, whatever. You know what I mean? I'd rather they're done up. I'd rather they're a bees over. The main reason you don't want to go over, they're a hollow bolt, you don't want to break them. But by other companies testing them to 25 Newton meters, we've got a fair idea you could even go to 20, no problem, okay? So 16 is the spec, that's what we've always used, it works for us. Now let's not forget that one at the back. This is the important part, you've really got to think before you move too much further ahead. Right, so we've put the extension back on. And these ones, no, they're not 25, they're 13, right? Once again, if it was 14 or 15, I'm sure that wouldn't hurt because there's people been doing them at 25, I can guarantee you that. I'll watch them do it. Okay, maybe I've selected the wrong tool for the job here, so we'll go and get it and take the extension and the socket off. Where's that long socket? That's what I couldn't. Let's try a deep reach socket, okay? Deep reach without anything else, see how that works. Yeah, it's a bit short, so we're going to add a short extension to that. That's the usual recipe. But this video, it's a 150 Prado. Everybody's tools are different, and sometimes people will be watching this video and then working on a Hilux or a 120, so it could be different. And this one, for whatever reason, it only seems to want to just fit in there. Come on. Which is pretty cool, like I said, the video thing. Right. Because of that aircon pop, it just clears it. See what I've got? I've got a, so kind of just clearing the top of the solenoids of the injectors. I thought I did this up hand tied all the way. Anyway, we're getting close. Right, so one more swing and we're going to clip, I think. Right, you ready? There it is. Right, so that's the deal. Right there, okay? Now let's go over those torque settings. Injectors were 22. It's really important, really, that one, that it's not really more or less. As best as you can to 22. I'm just giving that back area of the where the valve cover's going to go. Make sure there's no oil that's splashed anywhere, because sometimes, you know, that can happen with all your cleaning and checking valve clearances and that. And I'd rather double check it. Just using a clean part of the rag. Okay, so that's all 100% clean. So 22 on the injectors, 16 on the return line, that's at this side here, and 13 is the spec on the back one. Yeah, the 16s and 13s, I don't mind if they're a little bit more, I mentioned that already, right? Now, the next part is, so triple check that. Yep, you've definitely done them all, the alignment's right. Bang, bada boom, bada bing, right? Now, the valve cover's ready to go. We cleaned that up, we dried it, we put it in the sun to dry, we've checked it for cracks, we've placed a new cover gasket in it, and we've used moly coat on those 4 top seals to lubricate them so they slip on nice and easy. So that's, we've got everything laid out ready to go. So what we need to do before we put that on is apply our 4 little dobs of, we use the Ultra Grey. So just grabbing that out. Find out the end of it's a little bit dried out. You get that, sit patiently. This is one of those times where, you know, if you're watching, you grab yourself a drink or a handful of nuts. Yeah, nuts are good for you, right? Some nuts anyhow. Most nuts are good for you, a little bit, not too many though, right? Handful of nuts, whatever you're into. And anyway, I'm just going to get these 4, enough to do 4 little dobs. So I'm going to get in your view a bit, and you're not going to see this. Again, I've shown it in other videos. Right, I'm just putting 4 little, as prescribed. As described earlier in the video, each side of the half moon, and each side of the half moon, right? 4 places. I can see the problem now. This is what happens with this Ultra Grey stuff. The lids crack. The damn lids crack, and then it dries up. So that's what happened while it was drying up. The lids cracked. No, not from over tightening it. Just do it up nicely normally, but you know, of course it'd be my fault, wouldn't it? It's got to be someone's fault. I can take the blame. That's all right. My fault. I over tightened it. I bet you if I left it loose, it'd dry up because it was too loose. Anyway, we've got our 4 dobs of Ultra Grey on there. Our valve cover's definitely ready. Our engine bay was clean because we don't want any, see this deal here now? Look at this. If there was all dirt and stuff in these plugs, that could be falling in our injector inlets, right? That's why we have a clean engine bay to start with. We wash the engine bay down. Make sure there's no dust and dirt and debris. And we want to have these injectors open for the minimal amount of time. This is the important part, avoiding contamination, right? Avoiding contamination. Right, so just have a bit of an inspection on those inlets, looks good. Okay, now we're going to get our valve cover. No cracks, as we said already. Gaskets in place. These gaskets don't fall out, they don't need to be glued in or anything. Right, just carefully lift up those plugs, make sure it's above the solenoids with the moly coat. It's just going to go boom, that's it. See how easy that is? Some things will make it look easy. Now the next most important thing is, you should be telling me what's going on, right? Because you watched all the videos, right? We want to put the veranda in place. Right, these nozzle seals, we're not pushing them all the way in, we're just sitting them there. They're like a veranda for these injector inlets now because we can't put the pops on yet. We're close. But the quickest thing we can do is put that veranda in place. Now we've got a good kind of like 10 mil cover to the inlets of the injectors, right? Now if there's stuff floating around in the air, it's going to get there anyway, but hopefully that's small enough it's not going to cause you any issues. So what we'll do now, we'll grab all our valve cover nuts and bolts. This is where you don't want any interruptions. Don't rush, but don't delay, right? See all these bolts in. Whichever order you want first. There's two nuts. Obviously you can see where the nuts go because there's two studs to put them on. Right. Don't drop any like I did when I was taking them out earlier. Let's go around to the back here and get this other nut on so the two nuts are started because they're the ones that are more likely to fall. Once you drop the bolt in this hole, and it goes in the hole, it's not going to fall out anywhere. Two left on the hand for the two furthest to the back. Always carefully with the wires. I dropped one. Lucky it landed on the valve cover. Shocker. Like I said, only for the videos. I'm far from perfect. Far from it. We can only just try to do our best, right? We're using the impact driver again, just to zip them in. It's not even clicking once at this point. And we're doing the middle 8. Right, the middle 8. We're not doing the corners yet. Well, now that those 8 are done, we'll just take those in lightly as well. Right, now, at that point, once they're zipped in, it just saves a bit of time. We're trying to do things quick for you to bloody get on with it, you know what I mean? We might as well put this PCV hose back on. You only have one of those if you haven't got one of those catch cans. Catch can Johnny isn't here today, so you won't have to put up with that voice. Right, now when you do these up, you'll feel, do it in many passes, right? But you will generally feel there's a crush tube in the valve cover, right? You're going to feel when it gets to where it's going to be, right? So you could do these by hand. They're 9 Newton meters by the book, but it wouldn't matter if you did them up to 8 or 15. 15 I don't think is going to break anything. I'm not telling you to do 15, I'm just trying to make a point that they've already touched the crush tube lightly now. If I just nip them a little bit more, they're not going to come undone. But we've got the torque wrench out, so we're going to do it. But all those are pretty well in. We're doing the back 2 last. Just one click and then we'll do it by hand, you know? 2 clicks then, whatever. It's about 3 Newton meters. Now we're going to grab the torque wrench as soon as it's out on the bench anyway. And we're going to set it on about 9 Newton meters, you know, 9 or 10. You know, some people go, oh no, they said 9, it's got to be 9. I can tell you, mate, 10, 11 or 12 ain't going to hurt it. So let's not get ridiculous about it. And I'm not double checking them because I was happy with how they were by hand, almost. And I know, I can feel by hand that it's right. It's just a valve cover. It's not a precision fuel component like the part of the job under the valve cover and the fuel lines that we're going to be putting on next. So if you want to get the fuel lines quicker, you can not do this. You can not do what I'm doing now. You can come back to it after you've got the fuel lines on. But as you can see, for me it only took a few minutes. So we're just going to go ahead and do, even though we might say to you, I need a longer extension actually. Longer extension is easier. There we go. And always remember that there's a slight difference with your using extensions and uni joints with your torque settings, so make adjustments for that depending what your setup is. I really liked my go by feel thing, right? And it happened to be within 10% even with extensions and uni joints. So the valve cover's torqued down, bada boom, bada bing. So this is a video that kind of shows you how easy it is, if you like. Just remember, there's a lot of things we haven't shown you, the cleaning, this, cleaning that, whatever. This is showing you the R&R. There's other tips and information that goes with it. Let's get these pipes on. Remember I said we want to, once we seal up this fuel system, mate, we can kick back and relax. All right? And what I mean by that is, stop and think. Stop and think. The number 4 fuel pipe's coming out of the bag and it's got a little clamp in there with it. All right. You need to install that clamp onto the fuel line. All right. And what we're going to do is, one by one, we're going to take the caps off the common rail, push in the nozzle seals. All right. Here's the new pipe with the caps and everything ready to go, right? So we've got that ready. We're going to come down here. I'm going to take the caps off number 4 and number 3 together, right? Just for you for the video to make it happen a bit quicker. Put those on the bench. Alright, next step. We're about to lose our veranda and push number 4 seal all the way in. Alright, it's up to you whether you want to. I suggest you probably put the pipe in place before you take the caps off. For me, I've done a few before, so I'm quite confident that I'm going to get it in place without banging the pipe around on any dirty components. A, because it's clean, and B, because I'm just not going to do that. When you're less experienced, it's more likely that you may fiddle around a bit. So instead of going down cleanly, right, I'm just going to guide it in. It's not touching anything until it starts on that injector there, right? Same thing down the bottom. I'm going to either look, put it straight on, or feel it. It's already started. Right. Alright, and what I'll do then also is grab that bolt, number 4 pipe, and just put the bolt in the clamp, right? So it holds the pipe in place. Come on, where are you? Because I just want to have that clamp in and done up so it's holding the pipe in the correct position. Right, if everyone did up each end of the pipe without the clamp holding the pipe in the correct position, then you could have a different angle every time you go to do up your pipes, you know what I mean, and more risk of a leak. Okay, so that's number 4 fuel pipe. Number 3 fuel pipe now. Again for me, caps are off. Caps off at the bottom. Caps off here. I've got a system. I go down through there, right. Yeah, I've made it look bad, haven't I? You know, it's like that. Push that veranda in, and this clear of that around. It's a bit of fiddling around, but neither end of the pipe is touching anything it's not meant to, right? Right. That correct side of that bolt, get that started while holding the bottom one away from anything dirty or even the common rail. Then now my hand's going down the bottom to it, and I'm looking and guiding And the bottom nut started, top nut started. Right, so that's 2 done. Okay, you got it, number 2 fuel pipe. Okay, number 2, same deal, we're popping the caps off. For you guys, as I said, you might want to just leave the caps on. I'm going to push number 2 veranda all the way in. Right. Oh, that's right, we've got to get the cap off though, we've got to get the caps off. Right, I'm getting ahead of ourselves, trying to get it done a bit swiftly to show you. So we're going to take the cap off number 2 at this stage, only number 2. The reason we're only taking off number 2 is because so number 2 started at the top, and I'm holding it back here so it's not touching anything. Now I'm guiding it down. I've got to get it around this bolt actually. Okay, guide this down. One thing I didn't tell you about was tightening up these studs. You want to tighten up these studs or the pipes aren't in place. You remember the studs where the nuts were over tight and we had to redo all that. So, and I didn't do it, I forgot. So there you go. I'm going to do it. Now we're putting the pipes on, that's what's happening, we're not mucking around. We will get in between the pipes and nip those studs up a little bit with some nice multi-grips we've got, special ones, before we do too much. Now I want to put the clamps on 2 of the fuel pipes, right, between pipe 2 and 3 to help hold it all in position, right, because that's what it's all about. It's about keeping the pipes in the right position. So just by hand at the moment, because I need to torque up number 2 at the common rail down here before I put number 1 in the way, because it gets in the way. So while I'm doing that, I've got to hold these in because they get clamped against, but I can't put that clamp on yet because number 1 pipe's not in there. So it's make sure I'm holding those like that while the pipe makes contact at the common rail of number 2, if that makes sense. So back to the torque wrench again. What I say, 32-ish, probably again, more's better than less. We get those extensions happening again. I think it was, every car is different, depends what you're working around, so you can work that out for yourself, I'm sure. I'm just trying to work out where the extension I want is over there again. And that crow's foot, okay. This is kind of what we're looking like anyway, right? That's what it's all kind of, what's going down there. Anyway, we'll take that off there. We're going to put that crow's foot down there a little bit. Remember what I said, don't touch it on the battery either, make sure the cover's on or you've got a rag in place. And hold these against while it's making contact, right? So now that it's made contact, I don't have to hold it anymore, it's made contact on the correct angle. Now what we want to do, you want to go kind of as far as you can. So I'm using this different crow's foot to see how well it works. So it's a bit different to the one I normally use. But hopefully you'll be able to see what I mean. See, this one's not coming off. What's going on there? It needs a grind. So these crow's foots, I think they need a grind to make them work better, and that's why I'm doing this. So you guys must be getting a bit mucked around because you want to be able to go right up to there. So this might be a point where I stop the video, modify this crow's foot, because I want to make it work easier for you. Number 2 fuel pipe, right? You've got the one down here for the common rail, so you're kind of limited to your swing there, and if you go up too far, then this is getting caught up here behind the common rail. right? So you kind of want this bit here thinner, so I might grind the top off. Or feel free yourself if you want to grind the top off if you get one that hasn't been done yet. At number 2 there, yeah. I'm going to keep going trying something different. Right, let me just see. Oh. Let's just see, eh? Let's see how this goes. Might work as it is. Like I said, I'm not sure if I've actually used these ones in detail till now. So, and I thought, well, nobody's complained. I thought I'd better do it to make sure I'm making the job easy as possible for you. Okay. Oh yeah, that might work. We need to go a bit further with that. Don't worry about that click, that's just hitting the coolant hose. Just make sure you reset it, because sometimes, yeah, the bar or the torque wrench will hit the coolant hose. I'm having a bit of trouble with these crow's foot tools. I reckon they need a bit of grinding. Or I just need to take it a bit further before I take it off. So I'm going to go a bit further. Oh yeah, no, it does work. So 100% it does work. Okay, so when you're doing number 2 fuel pipe, as I am now, this is kind of, I suppose, the important part, eh? Okay. We just reach torque spec on number 2 fuel pipe. So basically I want to kind of show you, when you're doing number 2 fuel pipe, right, you've got your common rail down here, so you're kind of starting on an angle. Let's imagine my finger's your common rail right here, and you're going that way. If you go past about that angle there, this starts getting caught underneath the common rail kind of thing. Kind of like, so you're all right there, it'll come out. Once you go to there, you're kind of getting caught up, so you can't do that. So you've got to go maximum to about maybe there. Let's say, what's that, you know, 9 o'clock or whichever way you look at it. And then you come off, and to get back on, you kind of want to be there, but you can't because of that pipe. You've got to be there. So you're only basically getting that much at a time. So what I'm saying is, if you go just enough to there, you'll get back on just without hitting this pipe. You know what I mean? Because you can't quite get around enough with that pipe there. You don't really want to have to pull that pipe off and whatever. But if we were to grind some of the top off here, that would give us more room to go a bit further, so it might help anyway. So if you get that, if you got them, if you want to grind them a little bit there, that's cool. Mate, let's get number 1 fuel pipe on and seal up this fuel system. We fluffed around enough. Don't be fluffing around too much. So caps off. Cap off common rail at number 1 there, because number 2 pipe is done. Look, we'll check number 2 pipe if we can, but I find, maybe I'm just in an old habit, but I found it hard to torque number 2 pipe, harder impossible, while number 1's in place. So this is the order I do things. Right, veranda gone. Number 1 fuel pipe faces forwards. If you notice, the others face rearwards was the easiest way going in. Come on. Right. I was meant to be showing you the easiest way, wasn't I? Right, so I'm going to hold the other end with one hand, hold this end with this hand, bring this around, straight onto the injector. You know, pipes are clean, they haven't touched anything dirty. Same there, got onto the common rail. Okay, both ends are started, so basically we're safe. Our fuel system is sealed. What do we want now? This is tightening up those studs is the next step, because I forgot to do it earlier. Just make it harder for myself. I use these suckers, they grip really well. They're Crescent brand. I'm not plugging any brands with this one, but they're made in USA, Crescent. I don't know where you buy them. They were given to me as a gift many years ago, and they just grip really well, but it's really fiddly to get in there. That's why it's better to do before you put the pipes on, but we were putting the pipes on, and like I said, it doesn't really matter because the nuts are going to tighten them up anyway, right? But we're just going to try and do it, go ahead and do it anyway to demonstrate how painful it is if you don't do it back then. Anyway. And then you got the power steering reservoir in the way that you're knocking around. It is a pain. We've got one of them. Trying to get this one now, actually. Here we go. Actually, not too bad at all, actually. That's nicely nipped. Give the other one another nip anyway, as soon as I found the best position. That's it. Okay, so both those studs seem firm. Now we're going to get that flat bracket, because I want to get, I'm happy to slow down now and just make sure everything's right. I want to get that flat clamp on these fuel lines before we torque up the fuel lines, if you know what I mean. So that way it helps everything be in correct alignment. Alright, so just getting the nuts started at the moment. Right, and then, well, they'll probably pull in anyway, so we probably will nip those up. We'll set this other clamp on. So you've basically got 4 clamps, if you like. You've got the 2 that sit up here on top of the fuel lines, right, which you can't see, my hand's in the way. Right. Don't lose those, they're expensive too. I've got them in stock, so if you're doing the job and for whatever reason they're missing, you can order those off me. You know, they're just here for that exact reason, help out if you need them, or if you've picked up your parts, you're not far away and you need it. Just shoot me one of those urgent texts, right? Even if it's the weekend, you know. And if I see it, I'll get back to you and we'll try and make it happen. That's how we roll, okay? If you've purchased the other parts off us, the injector kit, not if you, I don't know, just some random person, you know. You're not going to get nothing. I don't work on weekends, right? VIP stuff, different, mate. I do everything I can to help. You support me, I support you. Okay. They're meant to be 5 Newton meters. Just nip them up nicely. Those ones up on the fuel line, you might be horrified again. Here we go with that impact driver, but rather than twist the pipes with a leverage of a spanner, the best way is to go like this. Right. And you need to keep going until they don't slide on the pipes. Right, so you need to go like that, make sure they're not sliding. So this one's moving a bit still, so it needs a bit more. Right, just don't crush the hell out of them, just a little bit at a time until they stop sliding, and then you check them at each service, okay? Now the only other one we didn't nip up was that back one on number 4 pipe, so we'll do that because we've done all of them, and we do things in groups, we do it all together. That's how you not forget things, all right? Now there's a lot of important things still coming on this job, so don't go anywhere. But I'm going to go somewhere and take another break because I'm happy with where we've got to, other than we're going to come back to torque up the rest of the fuel pipes, okay? So we're just making sure they're done up all the way. You can even just, to give yourself a little head start, we had a 7mm spanner out here, and we're not cranking them hard, we're just going. We're just going to go. Yep. Get them into position so we're ready to start rather than, you know, trying to swing a torque wrench around. Just till they've made contact in a little bit so they're not going to accidentally come undone. And they are sealed, right? You can check the ones down the bottom by hand. Yep, yep, yep. Yep, yep. Those positive battery terminal covers. I wish they had a design that stayed on there instead of falling off every time you bumped them. And when electrical people ran wires in there, I wish they'd do it right. So I'm taking a break and we're going to come back and torque up the rest of those injectors shortly. Hey guys, thanks for the break. It's now after lunch and yeah, I was out here very early this morning. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. Right, we're just torquing up the pipes now with the supplied crow's foot tool. And most torque things, as I said, if they come to a stop on the move, normally they're going to click straight away when you go to start again, but not necessarily on everything with this job, I've noticed. So if you've stopped and then it will move again, then go ahead. Right, so I generally do 3 clicks like that. And sometimes they move a bit more, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You know, I might be getting in the way of things, but you get that. We've got to get it done, so. Maybe I didn't push that quite far enough to get on the next. So the pipes, they're quite a soft, squashy material when they're new, and that's probably why it's crushing and then it clicks. And you know, I'd rather be a little bit over than under, and when they're new, they're nice and soft. You're not taking them off again until you replace your injectors again, so I'd rather be a little bit over if it is. Yeah, we need to get our setup happening again to get to our fuel pipes over the side here, which, well, you're not going to see too much from that side, but you know what I'm doing. So the 4 pipes at the top are done. You know, before we did number 2 fuel pipe, so for the sake of it, we're going to do number 1, because it's right next to 2, and it's the easiest one, I think. Could be wrong. So okay, just make sure when you torque number 1 fuel pipe that it doesn't click when it hits the bracket of the fuel line that's coming up, because it may click when that happens, so it's not truly there. So anyway, whatever you think, this is what's worked for me for many of these. So this is why I'm showing you. It is tried, tested and proven. Right, I'm going to get a little bit longer extension for number 3 because we've got these fuel hoses here in the way. Not fuel hoses, hello, heater hoses. You know I always do that, but I hadn't done it for a while. Calling things the wrong components. I didn't think I did this for the whole video. Did that for the whole video. Okay, so it's going to help a little bit. Right, so it comes up near the heater hose, and it's going to click when it gets near it anyway. So if you are right near it, then you just hold it like that out the way to double check it. All right, that's what works. See how it's hitting into the hose. I don't mind, it's not going to hurt the hose, but you're going to get the wrong torque setting if it clicks when it's hitting the hose. See, like it did then? So to check it, just hold the hose out of the way. So you... Alright. So all out, that's how easy torquing the fuel pipes was when you're organised. As I said, the hard one is number 2. Do it before you put number 1 fuel pipe on. So let's double check what we've done. We just did all top 4 fuel pipes, the 4 down the bottom. That clamps tight, that clamps tight. This clamps tight, and the one at the back we already tightened up. Now we need to put the stay back on the inlet manifold. So what I'll do, I talked about it in detail in other videos, but I'll bring you around this side to have a look. Okay, so when I say the inlet manifold to stay what we've been talking about, that's this bracket here, right? It bolts into position about where my thumb is there, where the bolt is. So once you take the bolt out and loosen that bottom one 2 or 3 turns, it comes back like this, and you can just gently go like that and sit it there, and then you can get to these two here, and you just put that back. It's not even in the way, you can just leave it there for the whole job, because you can get to those two there, because the other two are here, right? So nothing here is in the way. But now we're done, we need to put it back where it goes, so we're going to put that bolt in and tighten up the bottom one. Okay, so popular that, isn't it? Okay, so I've got 2 bolts here that look similar. One goes up in the top of the E-jar valve up here in that bolt once the E-jar valve's back on, which we haven't got at the moment. And the one with the 2 dots in it is the one that goes in that position I just showed you. I'm just doing that. So the reason this video is good, this is kind of like each component step by step. It hasn't got the cleaning detail, you know, exactly how to clean the ports and whatever. It hasn't got check and valve clearances, whatever, to save a bit of time. So that's in other videos. If you're in the VIP group, just search check and valve clearances. And, you know, don't think watching someone else's videos will do, because there's a lot of wrong misinformation out there. We tried to cover that the other day. There's a lot of bodgy information out there. So we've done up that top bolt. Now we've got to get to the bottom one. As I said, taking it off, same deal. Reach down, you won't even get the top of my head in the picture if you're unlucky. 2 arms. That was out of fair way. Okay, that's that done. Alright. That's the inlet manifold stay back on. So that kind of concludes the fuel system kind of thing, side of things, and it's sealed. So you can start pumping up your fuel filter, or change it if you're changing it, or if you've already changed it. It doesn't matter whether you did it before or after, whatever. The next step is pushing all this wiring back just a little bit, sitting our gasket in place and putting our E-jar valve back on. Well, that's what, in my opinion, is the next part of the process, right? So it's a good way to do things in a good orderly fashion. Right, new gasket there. That's the gasket you must replace. Well, you don't have to, but when I tell you something you need to do, that's because I said so. So I'm saying you must replace it. Now, I just want to say something about this E-jar valve. I'm pretty sure it's been cleaned before, because it's got all these buff marks on it. If you can see it, there's all these buff, you know, from the wire buff and that all over it, and that's why it's all dirty, and it's just kind of looks a bit, it's not factory, kind of looks a bit, how do I say, it looks a bit crap. Nothing wrong with it, I don't think. Just going to go and put a little bit of grease on these 3 bolts that bolt the E-jar elbow down. I don't know if you can hear me, I'm a bit away, but hopefully you can still hear me, and I'll keep that important information coming. Now, if you watch the full detail E-jar clean video, that will be very similar to what you're going to see, only for the next 5 to 10 minutes. So you might be kind of like, oh yeah, I've seen this bit. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you information while I'm doing this. Right? So I'll try and make it worthwhile. So at the moment I'm just going to sit the 2 bolts at this side in place. Just roughly, right? Because maybe it's slightly a different process getting this back together compared to when you're just doing an E-jar valve, you know what I mean? It'd be a bit different. But this part's going to be similar to putting these 3 bolts in. That's one thing that doesn't change. We want to get these 3 bolts in and started and done up. So we're going to grab our long extension with that wobble uni joint again. Get in there and spin that up, get that started. Right. That's definitely started. And before we do that up too tight, so you saw it come into place where it wants to go there. Before we do that up too tight, we're going to grab our other bolt. Remember the other one that was a little bit longer that went into the bracket? We're just going to put a bit of grease on that. The reason we're putting a bit of grease, we see a bit of corrosion, and I think an E-jar clean's been done before, but not by us. So I think they've used a buff to try and, some sort of buff to try and clean it, and also some sort of caustic cleaner that didn't clean off properly because I just like to get that started, alright? That one there. You can take it all the way in if you like, but I'm not fussed. I'm a bit whatever, right? Just want to come around and get the other two done up. I'm going to put the uni joint on for those two. Might make it a bit easier. And I'm going to zip them in with the impact driver, remember? The name of the game on this one is a bit of speed without wrecking anything. Just get it done a bit quicker. Of course, they're started already. Right. It's a good torque setting for this component, but we're still going to check it. Getting rid of the uni joint again now, and I'm just grabbing the 3/8 drive ratchet. And we're going to go back into this side and do this one by hand. Then we're going to check the other two. Alright, so that's that one done. Of the 3 bolts, these are the 3 bolts, the elbow, going into the manifold. Right, it's just alloy, so you don't want to overdo it. That went a smidge more. My uni joint socket doesn't want to stay a uni joint socket, it wants to keep popping on. So ideally that back one, maybe it should have a uni joint on it, so let's do that. Wouldn't quite, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think it's because we've got the, see there's that bit of extra wire, these are the variables. There's someone's run a wire across the back of the firewall there, and it's partly tucked behind the wiring loom. So that just holds that main wiring loom out a little bit more than usual, which means I can't get quite to the angle that I want it to get. Oh, that went just a little bit, not much, so that's good. So all 3 of those bolts are nice and firm with a new gasket. Now we'll just grab the 12mm ratchet spanner and, well, maybe without the spanner for now. We'll see how we go, eh? With the alignment being good, because we've got the 3 nuts loose. As we said in the other video, the 3 nuts on the E-jar valve are still loose to allow that to line up properly. So now that's done up, and we're just gonna, we've got this tiny little 12mm, very old cheap apprentice tool that does the job, and we're gonna get these nuts done up now. What nuts? The 3 nuts on the E-jar valve that we left loose. Watch the other video, it's called, on YouTube, is full, what's it called? E-jar clean full detail, with full detail or something like that. Whatever, right? So just search E-jar clean, whatever. Watch all the E-jar, they're all going to have relevant information anyway. So I said, don't settle for one video and go do a job. Do your homework. And don't regret later that, oh geez, yeah, I didn't know that, or I should have watched that. Watch more and watch it again. Right? It's like study, you know, when you learn something at school or uni, you don't just, you know, done in a day or a week or an hour, done. Right? You can, but there'll be someone better than you because they took some more time to study harder, learn more, read it again. If this is your vehicle you're doing, you should want to get it right the first time and not have to worry for the next how many years. Was that right? Is that going to last me the whole 7 years or whatever, 8 years? or I'm going to be doing it again in, you know, 6 months or a year or 2 years, because, you know, you sort of rush through and do the job instead of watching all the videos in detail, right? So we've tightened up this side, we tighten up the other side, we double check this side. Especially since the E-jar valve had wire buff marks on the face of it, so it's not 100% flat from factory anymore. As I said, someone had done an E-jar clean, so it's always risky damaging the faces between the E-jar valve and where they seal up here. And no gasket is going to correct a large imperfection, so you've got to be really careful of that. Next step is, so we've got those 4 bolts in, this part secured, the bottom of the E-jar cooler to the bottom of the E-jar valve. So to line that up, as you would have seen, if you're still watching, haven't seen the other video yet, look, watch this whole video and then watch that one and then watch this one again. You'll be like an expert. Right, we're going to loosen off the mounting bolt that holds the E-jar cooler to the manifold. We need to loosen that off to allow the E-jar cooler to come across. And we're going to put a little bit of grease on those threads as well. Don't say what grease, doesn't matter what grease, I don't really care. Here's grease, anti-seize, nickel anti-seize, copper-ease, never seize, but any grease you like, I don't care. Right? And we want to get this upside down bolt going into the E-jar valve. Right, with a bit of grease and clean, hopefully work better than before. This one's definitely started, and it's past halfway in. We're just working it. So this is the adjustment hand, right? I'm just moving this back and forward, pulling it up and down, whatever I need to do to make that bolt go in, right? Sorry, I do make this, trust me, my first one wasn't this easy. You know, it was the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth or 10th or whatever, right? Okay. I'll shift you around a little bit so that you can hopefully see something, what I'm doing over there, hopefully. Right. So, put this plug up here out of the way carefully, upside down bolt. So this is why we do it before we put the cover over the valve cover, and why if you're doing this on a Prado, you take the cover and this wiring loom out of the way first. Now we need to give this a bit of a wiggle to get things happy and happening. Alright, it's definitely started now. If it gets tight, then we just give it a bit of a wiggle. Much easier to give it a wiggle and make it all line up and do it by hand than have to struggle with spanners and, you know, do 1,000 turns. If you did that, you'll be there going, oh, yeah, I should have done that. Not everyone knew about the videos. They weren't all there straight away either. Okay, now, they're finger tight just about all the way in. So what we want to do now is, it's an order of business. Right? This is the order. Where's that 3/8 ratchet? Now, either way, this E-jar cooler mounting bolt has to get done up. This is the 12mm that's hidden under hoses that I said in the E-jar video. Don't forget this, right? This has got to get done up. So we want to do it now before we do up any of the other bolts and get it held in the wrong position. And then this is going to pull it in and twist. We don't want to be twisting and upsetting things, right? This is going in all the way first, and that's nice and firm. Hey guys, you're going to have to forgive me on this one. I stuffed up. I must have been rolling when I didn't mean to be rolling, and I pressed stop when I meant to press go, or whatever happened anyway. So I've got, I don't know if it was 10 or 15 minutes of the job done without you. So I'll just quickly recap. It's a bit of a stuff up, but you can go watch the other videos, so it doesn't matter. Watch the other videos, there's more coming, all of that, right? So keep watching, you know, subscribe, go back and watch all the old videos, buy injector kit off me, get in the VIP group. There's, mate, it's 5 times, 6 times we've done injectors, full videos, plus all the little ones, tips and tricks. Anyway, this is what's happened, right? I think I was doing up the E-jar cooler, so we did up the mounting bolt, we did the upside down bolts at that end, we did the nuts and bolts at this end, we put the common rail plug back on, don't forget that. We put this plate back on the side with the bracket, the 3 bolts, vacuum lines at the bottom, vacuum lines at the top. We put the cover back on, the cover over the cover, right? 2 bolts at the front, 1 in the middle, 1 at the back. I don't think we got that in the video. I think we already put the inlet manifold stay back on, didn't we, right? Now we're fixing up the wiring loom anyway. So look, hopefully that recapped and covered what we missed out on, and hopefully I've got things rolling again now. Looks alright at the moment in the picture. Yep, minute 25. But look, what we've got to do now, because we fiddled around with this wiring loom, is open up these clamps again, because we sort of bumped them shut, if you know what I mean. So we're just going to open those up again, because it's time to sit the wiring loom back in position. Alright. So we've got to get that one sitting in there, that one sitting in there, and you probably can't see this part, but it doesn't matter. We're just sitting the wiring loom where it's got to go. It's easy stuff. Right. That one's going to obviously go around there, that one's going to plug in there, and this bolt's going to out the back there, so we can clip that in there. It's not going to clip that well, remember, simply because our friends that worked on it before weren't that smooth. Right, we're going to do this up. Right, we're going to tuck that down neatly into there. That would mean we can do this clip up, this clip up, this clip up. Don't forget your coolant temperature sensor going back on the front there, click, and the clamp there, click. Alright, that's all your wiring loom over from this side, all secured. Alright, we've got to put that bolt up the top there, so let's do that now. Maybe this one. And what do we use? So we use a little ratchet spanner to get that going. Not to get it going, to tighten it up. You know what I mean. Sorry about that with the video, because I had a phone call, and then I thought I pressed stop to the video, but I actually recorded the phone call, and then I went back to start it, and it did the noise, the stop noise, not the start noise. So anyway, that's what happened. So you missed out a little bit. Look, I think it was only about 10 minutes. You still got the majority of the job, and as I've said, if you're doing this job, there's a lot more information than just what's in here. Sure, this is probably most of it and it shows you what's involved, but you should be in the VIP group, which is on Facebook, which you can only join after you've purchased either the injector kit, the big front end kit, you know, the water belt, timing belt and all that, or the Prado front wheel bearings assembled, ready to go. All the little bits and pieces we'll put in with those kits, but we don't sell them separately, because obviously I'm busy doing this. I can't just be selling everyone one EGR gasket for $8 or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So that's Toyota dealer if you need to do that, small bits and pieces or whatever. The little bits and pieces, we've got the, you know, like the fuel filler hose that leaks, we've got that in stock at the moment for the 120s. We can throw those in with injector or timing belt kits or whatever. We've got the little squeaky exhaust gasket thing, but you know, not fussed about it, just try and help out, you know what I mean? We've got them there if you want them. But we just can't be doing small bits and pieces, you know? It's too time consuming. Now we've got to put this cover, remember this cover that I told you about? Where the nuts vibrated loose, or one of the nuts vibrated loose after about 10 or 15,000 Ks it was. Couldn't believe it when that happened. Anyway, these ones won't vibrate loose because the amount of corrosion on it, I can't even do it up by hand. Let's see if I can get this one in there without dropping it. Will be a bonus, I reckon, if we can. Oh, how did I know I was going to drop that one? Sometimes you just know. And it was a lucky one that went all the way to the bottom. Let's do it better. Let's do it the way we normally do it. And that's get the short extension. Where is it? Water drive, 10 mil. Short extension. Should probably put some grease in it. Yeah, let's just do it the way we do it while we're changing things up. A little bit of grease on the nut so it sticks into the socket. Alright, that's what we've done. Bit of grease. Then we can fiddle around without dropping it. Okay, well, either that or we drop the whole extension and socket together. It's not that hard to do, but of course I had to fiddle it, didn't I? Anyway, how about this one at this end here? For some reason, these are tight. This is what I said, it's been cleaned before, this E-jar, and they've used some caustic cleaning stuff, and there's corrosion on the threads and stuff. Right. No, I'm doing up a bit tighter than that, unfortunately. Okay, so normally I would have went like that, but I'm going to go, don't bust them off either, but after that one coming loose, I'm giving it a bit of extra curry, because I'm not soft on things, but I don't break things. But these, one of them come loose. Just watching it come loose while we're standing there. So let's get this throttle body and the new gasket. Got those ready to go. Yeah, it's all nice and clean. It just didn't look as exciting because, like I said, it's been buffed up. The wire buff. Where'd I put those nuts and bolts over here? So look, we've nearly got it back together. Right? There's a few other plugs and stuff that you could forget, so sit tight, we're nearly there. Okay. So every other nut and bolt we can get to, we will check them at the end. But for the sake of trying to get it done a bit quicker, I'm just going to nip these for now. Okay, this plug, don't forget it, it's a hidden one from this side. You kind of like, you know, hides from you, and don't forget this plug once it goes back on. Next we're going to grab ourselves a new mat filter. We recommend replacing the mat filter every few years, and or when replacing the injectors. So we've got our new mat filter here. Pretty simple. Do we need to do a video showing you how to change a mat filter? Here's the old one, right? There's the new one. Take the vacuum line off. You put the vacuum line on. You take the vacuum line off. Put the vacuum line on. Push it on all the way, make sure it's nice and tight. Okay. Slip the vacuum line on. Put the mat filter in position. It'll just go into this clip if you're lucky, and it'll clip into the right position. Push it on as well as you can, and then it'll come on when the next piece comes into place. Now, I think we might need that next piece. We're running out of things to put back on here. So, where does this go? I don't know where this goes. This must go. We need to get this back again. Then that goes in there like that. And this goes over there like that. And then we need our two mounting bolts. You just keep pushing it in till it lines up. Now, a few people have queried, is that how that goes? Well look, the sock's not as long as the machine marks. That could go further and that could go further, but it's perfectly long enough, if you know what I mean. Obviously they don't machine exactly to where it goes, okay? So if you are unaware of that, now you're aware. They do not machine to exactly where it goes. Just trying to do it quick to show you. Bada boom, bada bing. Right, vacuum line down underneath here into the clamp onto the map manifold absolute pressure map sensor. Right, but none of this is going to work at the moment, so we need to bring this. Remember this clamp we took off as well, so we'll take this bolt back out. Right. That bolt back in there. Right. Get the little 10mm and nip that up. Still things aren't going to work. We need to get this clamp back up here and do that up. We need to get these clamps done up. Let's hurry up and get those done. I've got a bench full of tools sitting here. That's where that was from the last guy, so we'll just leave it there. Just nicely, right? If you don't know your feel with the tools, then as I've said a number of times in this video, I know what I'm doing with my tools. We're not pulling the trigger flat out hard necessarily, and this one we can't get to it, so we have to do it the slow way. Just make sure you've got it pulled up nicely to the correct position, and you don't leave it too loose or do it up too tight, because yeah, they can sort of get out of shape a bit if you. I've seen them over time. I've seen them left loose slipping down as well. So it's kind of like getting the balance right. You know, it's a bit of a hard one, I suppose you could say. Well, I think that's about right. So we need to get our wiring back that we just tucked down here not that long ago. Well, it seems like not that long ago. It was a while ago. It's quite a few hours ago, half a day ago, 3/4 of a day ago. Get all the wiring back out here. One plug there, one clip there, one clip there. Don't forget that brown plug here. We've already put that guard on. Just make sure you hear it click. Right. This one. Pretty naturally, they just pop back in position where they need to be. Alright, so that's all the plugs, clips, done. We've done that one behind there, we've done that one there. That's all secure. Yeah, you know what? Funnily enough, other than putting this shroud back on the back of the windscreen here, I reckon, other than everything I've forgotten and things I forgot to show you in that last section of the video, I think it's back together. If we turn the key, the car would start. Just thinking that one through for you before I cut. Wiring, yeah, cover over the cover. We check those bolts. So these 2 bolts at the front, one in the middle, one at the back. Clips are on, clamps are on. That bolt at the top we did up, didn't we? Yeah, we did that with a ratchet spanner. This plug, clamp, plugs, vacuum lines. Bada boom, bada bing, we're done. But we're just going to check over a bit more anyway, the triple check thing, because that's how we roll. Do you need me to show you how to put that shroud on the back of the windscreen, on the bottom of the windscreen sort of thing? Okay. Okay, you wanted it, let's put it back on. So you'd sort of think with 2 people it might be easier, but sometimes find if someone tries to give you a hand, it's actually harder. So anyway, well, you just need to get it down to about that position, right? There is a bit of walking back and forward, right? There is, I can confirm. You just need to squeeze this side in a little bit, hook it over your windscreen wiper. Okay, now I'm going back over that side again. There's a bit of back and forth, but just patience, slowly, you know. If someone could just hold that in for me, that'd be good. No, that's all good. If I had two with me, that's the problem when you've got two people. It's like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? But sometimes you're not. So that side's nearly ready to clip on. It's quite simple. It sort of slips up. There's a channel. It slips up the bottom of the windscreen, right? So once you get it in the right spot, like it's about there. This side's kind of on the middle, and the other side. I might back over this side again. Over this side, over that side. Yeah, that should just. That's pretty well in position there. And you'll know when it wants to clip in here, right? So this side's pretty well right. So we'll just go to this side one more time. And there's a center locating hole up there, right? So once we get this pushed up again, that's it. Then that middle one will go in there, and then the first clips will go clip, clip, clip. That's three at this side done. Back over that side. Did you count how many times I walk back and forth? It's pretty well standard, right? One, two, three. We're all in. I just like to give it a bit of a, yeah, it's not going anywhere. Then you get your little corner bits, and you got to make sure they go in right, because these are the ones people lose. You know, you get a windscreen replaced and whatever. So it slips up on the side. I don't know if you can see in the video, but on the side trim it slips up. Then there's a little bit that clips into the corner of the guard. If you push it up far enough, it'll clip in there. And then you've got two bits that clip into this bit of plastic here. Right, just a bit of a wiggle and a fiddle. They're in. Okay. There's two clips also. You know those typical pain in the bum clips that you know are a pain. Anyway, I'm going to slip that cover up there. Get that corner bit into there. And then wiggle this around a bit. Yep, that's clipped in now. Right, and there's a clip that goes there and another one at the other side. We'll round those up. As I said before, these can be fiddly to get in, particularly on this trim. And it's just because they're old and dry. I'm just over at the bench resetting them, and I'm going to do another little magic trick. Just spray a little bit of CRC or something similar on them, on the base part, just to help them slip in, because they can be a real pain. I'm telling you, I've stood here sometimes 5 minutes trying to get one in, and the trick that I've found that works, usually, I'll say usually because we're doing a video now, so right, you know, usually is a bit of like CRC, some sort of spray. This one doesn't want to play, so like I said, usually it's always the, you know, you get what you expect. Because we're doing a video. Now I'm going to show you something in a minute as well. So I'm just trying to get that clip in. Come on. Sometimes you've got to call things names, and unfortunately we've got the video rolling, so I'm going to take the centerpiece out, just sit it up there for a minute, because sometimes being able to get your thumb on top of the middle of the centerpiece. Okay, I'll admit it, they are a pain. They are definitely a pain. I don't like these clips. I reckon you don't even need them. So if you're doing your own one of these and you have trouble, just throw them. Look, I've got to put them on because I'm getting paid to do the job, and if the customers were here, they'd probably go, you know what, if you don't reckon it needs it, throw it. And look, I assure you it doesn't need it. It's not going anywhere. With the bonnet shut and those clips and everything, it's not going anywhere. But I'm just not that guy, so I've got to do it. Unless someone's standing here going, I'm with you. If this was my car, I don't think I'd fit them again, because they're just ridiculous. And there's probably some windscreen fitter guys that might ever see this video one day if it ends up on YouTube, and I don't know if it will, or if it'll be private or public. I don't know, the future there it's in. They'll be going, oh, do us all a favour and just throw it in the bin, would you? Right, so that's in, and that one's pressed flush level like they're meant to be. But it was never going to come out anyway because of all the other clips. But anyway, we've just got to do it. It's the way we are, you know, we've just got to do it. I'm going to take the center out of this one as well. It's a different clip, so you never know, by magic that might just go in. There it is, it just went straight in. Sometimes you just got to swap sides or swap hands or hold your tongue the other way, right? I'm going to show you something else too, right? You probably see my hands and you go, oh, did you ever get your hands dirty? Not much really. Look, I've just done an injector job. Not real dirty, are they? See? We'll give those a polish up later. Hey, don't worry, we've had a bit of a clean up as we go, and we keep clean. This was the reassembly, so obviously jar cleaning and everything dirty happened with a bit of gloves and stuff like that. Probably had a couple of wash ups along the way, because look, if we're not clean, the whole car gets unclean, right? Maybe I should show you this vehicle, how clean it is, because I'm actually impressed myself. I'm looking at it. Oh yeah, no, there was one drip of diesel fuel that probably came up my fuel pipe when I lifted it off. I'm just checking this side. No, nothing on this side. Not one fingerprint mark, nothing, because that's how we roll. Right, now that we've got that on, okay, some people are thinking, is that it? Are we done yet? We are nearly done. But some people want to see how to put those windscreen wipers back on and how to get all that alignment right. And it's really quite simple. We've got a fly flying around here. That time of year now, isn't it? Get this towel out the way. We just have that there, just if we're leaning a little bit here, you know, we try not to put too much pressure there, but rather than have your arm digging into a bit of steel or whatever, you know, because sometimes we do lean there a little bit. And to protect the car a little bit, you know, a few towels here and there. Let's get these windscreen wipers back on. So hopefully with this down, you can see enough of what's going on. So we're just going to sit our tools there. We've got our clips. We're just going to put them there so you can see them carefully, and our nuts. We wouldn't normally put on the paintwork, but you know, we're just doing it to show you what we're doing. So it's a bit of tough luck this time, but we're careful how we do it, right? We've got two windscreen wipers, right? Two different lengths. Look. One I think's a 500 and one's a 560. Which one's which? Well, put the short one on the passenger side and see how you go. We're just going to sit that there for now. Whatever you do when you're doing these, don't let them go, because you can break windscreens. I've seen that happen. So put it to the bottom of the stroke and hold it down like so while you get the nut started. Right, and then you can just let it go. It'll spring back a little bit. Same with this one. Just put it at the bottom. You can see the dirt mark in most cases. Press it down like that while you get it started. And then once you just hold the arm while you nip it up, just nicely like that. Same with this one. Careful of the paintwork on the edge of the bonnet and stuff like that. I suppose you're working near there. Then you can put the clip on. Make sure it goes on and it doesn't stay in the shelf like it did for one guy's car. I suppose you get that when you're talking to me and distracting me. So you've got to blame someone else. Alright. As far as physically putting this vehicle back together goes, I believe job is done. So that's a full length video, other than about 10 or 15 minutes I missed out, unfortunately. Bugger. But there's other videos. So if you do see this one and you want to see more, all you got to do is buy the injector kit and you're in the VIP group on Facebook for life, subject to terms and conditions. That can change without notice at any time, without notice, bada boom, bada bing, whatever, right? So that's all back together. We're going to, this is what we're going to do now. We're going to take a break. Then we're going to put in the injector compensation codes to the ECU using our scan tool. Then we will start the vehicle, and it may blow a little bit of smoke. We just worked on it, clean EGR, sort of for the new injectors, you know, it's all a bit new, a little bit whatever. Then we're going to back it out. We're going to give the engine bay a wash down because a bit of fuel leaks down the block from the common rail. Everyone working on the vehicle should do that. Can't give cars back to people thinking it might have a leak or something. Then we're going to let it idle as it asks to prepare for the pilot learn. Then we're going to go into pilot learn detail and follow the screen as it says, and we're going to do the pilot learn. We've got that either on YouTube and or in the VIP group as well, separate videos. This one's long enough, isn't it? And So, hang on, one other thing I can see that I didn't. Don't forget to put the power steering. Clip that back into position where it's meant to be. Right. And there's also a clip. There's kind of a clip for that too, which you can't kind of see what's going on, but it doesn't matter. Just have a look at the hose. There's a clip down there that the hose needs to pop into anyway. So that's all back in position, happy days. This is what I mean. We still got to you got to just double check over everything. We're going to go over everything and just check everything we can see. The parts we can't check is the parts under the valve cover, etc. The parts that are hard to go back to, they're the ones you double, triple, quadruple check before you put it together, because you can't go back there. You just got to get it right the first time, no questions asked, okay? So keep watching the videos. We're going to put in the compensation codes, wash down the engine, do the pilot learn. We're going to blow it dry while it's idling to do the pilot learn. But the first part of the pilot learn, when it idles up, it's got to get to 70 degrees coolant temp. We're going to go on a 20k road test to make sure there's no leaks. It's running well. We're going to have the diagnostic plugged in. We're going to have a look at that. We're going to come back, look at it some more. We're going to double check it again, make sure there's no leaks, and there won't be, because that's how we roll. Once again, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, if this ends up on YouTube, hit subscribe, and hey, tell your friends, share the channel, because there's a lot of information there that can help everyone. Thanks guys, see ya.